Welcome back, you night owls. Tonight we embark on a journey far beyond the humdrum of your daily grind, venturing into the shadowed corners of history where the line between myth and reality blurs into an almost imperceptible whisper. Imagine, if you will, the vast silent stretches of time before recorded history, when our ancestors gazed up at the same star-dusted canopy you see, yet with eyes unclouded by satellites or electric light, eyes that might have perceived shapes and movements we now dismiss as mere fancy. You might be cosy in your bed, tucked under a warm duvet, but I promise you, the questions we're about to unpack could make the hair on the back of your neck stand just a little. You probably won't survive this journey with your worldview entirely intact. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. If you're drifting off in London, or just waking up in Tokyo, let us know your location and local time in the comments. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're walking through a museum, not one filled with the usual dusty relics, but a speculative one, where the exhibits challenge everything you thought you knew about our past. You pause before a display, a shimmering reconstruction of something found deep within an ancient mine. It's a metallic sphere, impossibly smooth, etched with lines that seem to pulse with an internal light. The placard reads, Klerksdorp Sphere, approximately 2.8 billion years old. Your brow furrows. 2.8 billion years. The accepted narrative of human history barely stretches back a few 100,000. What could create such a perfect, artificial-looking object so unfathomably long ago? You brush a hand over the cool, simulated surface, feeling a faint tremor of unease, a gnawing sense that perhaps our textbooks have omitted a few crucial chapters. This isn't an isolated incident, mind you. Across the globe, from the dusty plains of Africa to the dense jungles of South America, you stumble upon what scholars have awkwardly termed out-of-place artifacts, or OO parts, as the more playful among them like to call them. You pick up a replica of the Kozo artifact, a geode-like object found in California in the 1960s. Inside, perfectly encased, is what looks suspiciously like a spark plug. But this particular geode is estimated to be 500,000 years old. A 500,000-year-old spark plug? You chuckle, a nervous sound that echoes in the quiet museum. Who was tuning up their primordial chariots back then? It's almost comical, isn't it? Until the reality of the implications settles like a cold stone in your gut. Historians still argue whether these anomalies are genuine evidence of advanced, forgotten civilizations or merely misinterpreted geological curiosities. But the sheer volume of them, the consistent pattern of unexplainable craftsmanship appearing in timelines where only crude tools should exist, begins to build a compelling, if unsettling, case. You move to another exhibit, a series of intricately carved stone figurines, some depicting what appear to be flying machines, others strange, elongated figures with large heads and eyes. These are the Acambaro figures from Mexico, allegedly thousands of years old, showing dinosaurs coexisting with humans, along with these baffling alien-looking beings. The mainstream archaeological community dismisses them as a hoax, but you can't shake the feeling that something more profound is at play. The sheer effort, the apparent artistry, the consistent themes across such a vast collection. A hoax of that magnitude seems almost as improbable as the objects themselves. Think about the sheer audacity of it all. Mainstream historical fact tells you that the first widely accepted evidence of tool-making hominids, Homo habilis, dates back around 2.4 million years, with very basic stone tools. Yet you're looking at objects that suggest a level of technological sophistication that shouldn't exist for millions more years, if ever. It's like finding an iPhone buried in a Neanderthal cave. You'd probably just assume someone dropped it yesterday, right? But what if the surrounding strata scream millions of years ago? That's the quandary these OOPARTS present. You consider the Antikythera mechanism, for instance, discovered in a Roman-era shipwreck. This isn't millions of years old, but it's a mainstream historical fact that completely blew open our understanding of ancient Greek technological prowess. It's an incredibly complex astronomical calculator, a clockwork device with dozens of gears, far more sophisticated than anything believed possible for its time, circa 1st century BCE. For centuries, historians thought such intricate mechanics didn't appear until the 14th century. The mechanism forced a radical reassessment. Now, Imagine if an equivalent leap, or even greater, happened millions of years ago. The Antikythera mechanism shows us that our understanding of ancient technology is often deeply flawed and constantly evolving. If we missed something so obvious, what else have we overlooked, buried deeper, or simply dismissed out of hand? You wander into a dimly lit section dedicated to the Baghdad battery. It's a simple clay pot, an iron rod, and a copper cylinder, but when assembled it could have generated a small electrical current. Discovered in Iraq, dating back to the Parthian era, around 250 BC to 224 AD, it raises the fascinating question: did ancient peoples understand electricity? Was it used for electroplating, or perhaps for some ritualistic purpose lost to time? The mainstream view is that it's simply a storage jar, but the design is remarkably similar to modern voltaic cells. You can almost hear the gentle crackle of a forgotten current, illuminating a small, dark corner of an ancient workshop. It's a fringe tidbit that, while not evidence of alien visitation, certainly makes you question the linearity of human technological progression. What if these discoveries aren't singular bursts of genius, but echoes of something older, something learned and then forgotten? The museum hums with a faint, almost imperceptible energy. You feel a familiar fatigue creeping in, but your mind is racing. You recall a quirky anecdote about the Dorchester pot, an alleged metal pot found embedded in solid rock in Massachusetts in 1851, hundreds of millions of years old. The scientific consensus is that it was probably a Victorian-era item that fell into a crevice, but the story persists, a testament to the human fascination with things that don't quite fit. What if, you muse, these anomalies aren't just curiosities but deliberate breadcrumbs left by an intelligence that predates us by an incomprehensible margin? What if, millions of years ago, a kind of intergalactic road trip took a detour through our primitive Earth, leaving behind not just literal trash, but tools, observations, even perhaps biological imprints? You find yourself in front of a holographic projection, depicting an imagined scene. Strange tall figures with slender limbs and large dark eyes stand beside a group of early hominids, seemingly interacting, perhaps teaching. The hominids look up with a mixture of fear and reverence. Is this the unspoken truth behind the swift cognitive leaps our ancestors made? Historians still argue whether significant evolutionary jumps, particularly the sudden emergence of abstract thought, art, and complex language, can be fully explained by natural selection alone. Was there a catalyst, a spark that ignited the human mind in a way that seems almost too rapid, too convenient? You imagine them, these ancient visitors, perhaps not conquering, but simply observing, conducting experiments, or even subtly guiding the nascent intelligence on this vibrant, burgeoning world. They wouldn't need to land spacecraft on the White House lawn. A quiet intervention, a dropped tool, a genetic nudge, an observed behaviour, perhaps that's all it took. The notion sits heavily, yet strangely comforting. It provides a possible answer to questions that have plagued philosophers and scientists for centuries. Why are we here? How did we become so uniquely intelligent? As you prepare to leave this section, the quiet murmur of the museum seems to amplify, filled with the whispers of unanswered questions. The Klerksdorp sphere, the Koso artifact, the Acambaro figures, they stand as silent sentinels defying our easy explanations. They are the archaeological equivalent of a mischievous grin in the dark, hinting at secrets untold. You realise that your comfortable, well-ordered timeline of history is less a rigid highway and more a winding, overgrown path, with countless hidden turn-offs and forgotten detours. And on some of those detours, something truly extraordinary might have been waiting. You drift from the realm of tangible, albeit puzzling artifacts into the boundless expanse of the cosmos, where the questions about ancient visitors become less about what they left behind, and more about who they might be and where they might hail from. You're now floating in the blackness between stars, looking back at our familiar blue marble, feeling incredibly small. The thought naturally arises, are we truly alone in this seemingly infinite cosmic ocean? The sheer scale of the universe, a mainstream historical fact that has slowly unfolded from ancient geocentric models to our current understanding of billions of galaxies, each with billions of stars, makes the idea of Earth being the sole cradle of life seem almost absurdly arrogant. Imagine the numbers just for a moment. Our Milky Way galaxy alone is estimated to contain between 100 and 400 billion stars. Now, consider that astronomers believe a significant fraction of these stars have planets orbiting them, and many of those planets could be in the Goldilocks zone. Not too hot, not too cold, just right for liquid water, and potentially life as we know it. You probably struggle to pick out constellations on a clear night, but picture billions upon billions of potential homes for life. The odds, you'd think, swing wildly in favour of cosmic companionship. It's like throwing a handful of sand onto a beach and expecting only one grain to exist. This leads us to the famous, or perhaps infamous, Fermi paradox. You're at a cosmic dinner party, a grand gathering of brilliant minds, and someone casually asks, "Where is everybody?" If the universe is so vast, so old, and so full of potential life-bearing planets, why haven't we heard from anyone? Why hasn't Earth been swarmed by tourists from distant star systems, eager to sample our unique brand of reality TV or try a perfectly grilled steak? This open scholarly debate still puzzles scientists. Some argue that advanced civilizations are rare, others that they are fleeting, destroying themselves before they can master interstellar travel. And then there's the more unsettling thought, perhaps they have visited, and we just haven't recognised the signs, or we're simply not looking in the right places, or even worse, they're deliberately avoiding us. It's like being the weird neighbour everyone tries to steer clear of, and you're left wondering why your lawn is always empty of partygoers. You recall a quirky tidbit from astrobiology, the concept of panspermia. This isn't about little green men in spaceships, but rather the idea that life itself, or at least its building blocks, could travel through space, hitching rides on comets or asteroids. Imagine ancient microbes, resilient little cosmic surfers, surviving the vacuum of space, protected within a rock, finally crash-landing on a nascent Earth billions of years ago. It's a fringe idea, certainly, but it offers a fascinating alternative to life spontaneously arising here. If life can spread like dandelion seeds across the galaxy, then the chances of it existing elsewhere, perhaps even seeding Earth itself, dramatically increase. It paints a picture of a universe teeming with biological potential, a biological soup simmering across countless worlds. Now, let's bring it back to the more direct implications for ancient visitors. If civilizations are common, and if some of them have managed to overcome the immense challenges of interstellar travel, then the idea of them visiting Earth becomes not just plausible, but almost statistically probable over the vast stretches of cosmic time. You're lying in bed, considering that the light from some distant stars you see tonight left its source millions of years ago, before dinosaurs walked the Earth, before our own species even emerged. What if, during those ancient epochs, another intelligent species, perhaps tens of thousands or even millions of years ahead of us technologically, was gazing at our little blue dot, making plans for a cosmic road trip? The obstacles to interstellar travel are immense, yes, but not necessarily insurmountable for a civilization with millions of years of technological advancement under its belt. We, as a species, have only had radio technology for a little over a century, and we're already sending probes to the edge of our solar system. Imagine what a civilization 10,000 years more advanced could achieve. 1,000,000 years. We're talking about technology that might appear indistinguishable from magic to our current understanding. For them, a journey to Earth might be no more complex than your commute to work, albeit with a slightly more scenic route through nebulae and past stellar nurseries. You think about the Drake equation, a mainstream scientific attempt to estimate the number of communicative extraterrestrial civilizations in our galaxy. While it involves a lot of educated guesswork, it highlights the factors involved: the rate of star formation, the number of planets per star, the fraction of those that could support life, the fraction that do develop life, the fraction that develop intelligent life, the fraction that develop technology, and the length of time such civilizations release detectable signals. Even with conservative estimates for these variables, the number often comes out to be far greater than 1, meaning more than just us. You can almost hear the cosmic phone ringing, but we haven't quite figured out how to pick it up. Or maybe it's just on silent mode. Consider a practical problem for our potential visitors: the sheer distances involved. Even at light speed, which we currently believe is the ultimate cosmic speed limit, crossing our galaxy would take tens of thousands of years. But what if there are shortcuts? What if they're not constrained by light speed? You contemplate the theoretical concepts of warp drives or wormholes, fringe scientific ideas that, if ever realized, could drastically shrink the cosmic map. Imagine folding space, literally bringing two distant points together, or bending the fabric of space-time itself to jump vast distances instantaneously. These are the kinds of concepts that would be child's play for a truly ancient, advanced civilization. For them, Earth might not be an incredibly remote outpost, but just another stop on the grand galactic tour. The universe is a constantly evolving place, a mainstream historical fact of cosmic proportions. Stars are born, live and die, galaxies collide, planets form, and life, wherever it arises, adapts and changes. So if life arose elsewhere millions or even billions of years before it arose on Earth, those civilizations would have had an immense head start. They would have experienced technological revolutions, philosophical shifts, and perhaps even existential crises we can barely conceive of. Their very existence, their understanding of the universe, might be so far beyond our own that their visits would be less about invasion and more about, well, something entirely different. Perhaps they're collecting cosmic samples like a botanist in a rainforest. Or perhaps they're simply mapping the galactic neighbourhood, and we're just one of many interesting curiosities. The notion of zoo hypothesis often pops up in these conversations. It's the quirky idea that perhaps extraterrestrial civilizations are aware of us, but choose not to interfere, treating Earth like a protected wilderness preserve or a cosmic zoo. You're the adorable, somewhat chaotic resident species that they observe from afar, perhaps occasionally dropping off a curiously shaped rock or a seemingly out-of-place artifact just to see what we do. It's a bit patronising perhaps, but it certainly provides an answer to the "why haven't they said hello?" question. It also implies a certain level of ethical consideration on their part, a decision to allow our development to unfold naturally, without the disruptive influence of a full-blown alien revelation. As you consider the vastness of space and time, the possibility of life flourishing elsewhere becomes less of a fanciful notion and more of a statistical inevitability. The questions then shift. Not if there's life out there, but how much life, what kind of life, and what are its intentions? And critically for our journey tonight, has that life ever cast its gaze upon our developing planet, not just in the modern era, but deep in our ancient past, millions of years before recorded history, before we even knew to look up and wonder? The stars continue their silent dance above you, holding secrets that stretch across unimaginable distances and epochs, waiting for us to unravel them. You're no longer floating in the void. Instead, you find yourself gazing up at a ceiling, but not just any ceiling. This one is adorned with intricate patterns, constellations that seem eerily familiar yet subtly wrong. You're in a chamber, deep within an ancient structure, and the air is thick with the scent of damp earth and forgotten time. This isn't a planetarium, it's a testament to ancient observations, a star map etched into stone, or perhaps a memory passed down through generations. The very concept of early humans charting the heavens is a mainstream historical fact, from the rudimentary calendars of nomadic tribes to the sophisticated astronomical observatories of the Mayans and Egyptians. But what if some of these maps, some of these stories, originated from an external source, an alien guide whispering secrets of the cosmos into the ears of our ancestors? You trace a finger over a depiction of Orion, but next to it, there's a cluster of stars that doesn't quite match any known celestial body in that region. Or perhaps it's a star that has long since faded or shifted position over millions of years. This is where the notion of paleo-contact becomes truly fascinating. The idea that ancient myths, religious texts and artwork are not merely imaginative tales, but distorted recollections of actual encounters with extraterrestrial beings. It's an open scholarly debate, with mainstream historians typically dismissing such interpretations as fanciful, while proponents argue the correlations are too strong to ignore. You can almost hear the gentle scoff of a skeptical archaeologist, but you can also feel the pull of possibility. Consider the Dogon tribe of Mali, a quirky or fringe tidbit that has captivated many. For centuries, long before modern telescopes confirmed it, the Dogon possessed astonishingly accurate knowledge of the Sirius star system, including the existence of Sirius B, a white dwarf star invisible to the naked eye, and its incredibly dense properties. Their oral traditions speak of visitors from Sirius, known as the Nommo, amphibious beings who came to Earth in a chest that landed with a great noise. How did a remote African tribe gain such precise astronomical knowledge without advanced instruments? Was it sheer coincidence, remarkable observation passed down through generations, or an inherited memory of something far more profound? You imagine a Dogon elder under the vast African night sky, pointing to Sirius and recounting tales of fish-like beings descending from the heavens, their wisdom imparted to a receptive few. It's a story that tickles the imagination, challenging the conventional narrative of human discovery. You walk through a mental gallery of ancient art. There are the Nazca lines in Peru, massive geoglyphs etched into the desert floor, some depicting animals, others abstract shapes, and some that look remarkably like runways or landing strips when viewed from above. Who, you wonder, were these immense figures meant to be seen by? If they were only visible from high above, were they intended as signals, messages to someone in the sky? The scale is immense, a testament to incredible organisational effort, and the purpose remains a tantalising mystery. Mainstream archaeology attributes them to ritualistic or astronomical purposes, but you can't help but consider the alternative perspective, that perhaps they were signposts for aerial visitors, ancient GPS markers for beings whose mode of travel required an elevated view. Then there are the Vimanas from ancient Indian texts, particularly the Mahabharata and the Ramayana. These texts describe flying machines, chariots that soar through the sky, capable of great speeds and even warfare. The descriptions are remarkably detailed, speaking of powerful engines, flight maneuvers, and even devastating weapons. While obviously not a historical fact in the modern sense, these texts are mainstream historical artifacts within Indian culture, chronicling beliefs and narratives that shaped an entire civilization. The question then becomes, where did these vivid descriptions come from? Were they pure invention, the product of incredible foresight, or a memory, however embellished, of observing advanced technology? You picture ancient poets, eyes wide with wonder, attempting to describe a flying craft in terms they could barely comprehend, equating it to a divine chariot. It's like trying to explain a jet plane to someone who's only ever seen a horse and buggy. This leads to an open, scholarly debate about the origins of mythology itself. Are myths merely allegories for natural phenomena or human psychology, or do some of them contain kernels of historical truth, passed down through generations, their original meaning lost to time and translation? When cultures separated by vast oceans and continents share similar flood myths, or tales of sky gods descending to teach humanity, it prompts a curious mind to ask, is there a common source? Could that source be extraterrestrial? It's like finding the same distinctive brand of artisanal cheese in two completely different parts of the world. You start to wonder if there's a shared vendor, or at least a shared recipe. You shift your attention to the pyramid texts of Egypt, ancient funerary texts inscribed on the walls of pyramids. These texts contain intricate cosmological knowledge, detailing the journey of the pharaoh's soul to the stars, specifically linking them to the circumpolar stars and Orion. This is a mainstream historical fact. The Egyptians were obsessed with the heavens and believed their destiny was intertwined with the stars. But some interpretations, admittedly on the fringe, suggest that certain passages contain coded instructions or descriptions of advanced technology, not simply metaphors for the afterlife. Was their understanding of the cosmos based purely on observation, or were they taught by someone who had already journeyed amongst the stars? Think about the birdmen or owlmen figures found in various ancient cultures, from pre-Columbian art to Sumerian reliefs. These often depict human-like figures with bird-like heads or wings, sometimes wearing what look like helmets or suits. While often interpreted as symbolic representations of deities or shamans, a quirky tidbit of alternative archaeology suggests they could be depictions of beings in flight suits or advanced armour. It's a leap, certainly, but you can't deny the striking visual parallels once you allow your mind to consider the possibility. You picture an ancient artist trying to render a metallic winged being in the only way they knew how, by drawing upon the familiar imagery of birds. The consistency of certain themes across vastly disparate cultures is another intriguing point. The idea of a great flood exists in countless mythologies worldwide, a mainstream historical fact often attributed to post-glacial sea level rise or localized flooding events. But there are also recurring narratives of creators or teachers descending from the sky to impart knowledge, agriculture, or laws to nascent human societies. The Quetzalcoatl myth in Mesoamerica, for example, tells of a feathered serpent deity who arrived from the east, bringing knowledge and civilization. The Anunnaki of Sumerian mythology are described as powerful beings who descended to Earth and interacted directly with humanity, even creating humans to serve them. Are these just coincidences, archetypal narratives emerging independently, or are they fragmented memories of something real, something that fundamentally altered the course of human development? The challenge, of course, lies in the interpretation. How do you distinguish between genuine historical memory and allegorical storytelling? Historians still argue whether the stories of ancient heroes like Gilgamesh or King Arthur contain any historical truth, let alone tales of skyfaring gods. Yet, the persistent patterns, the intricate astronomical knowledge, and the descriptions of seemingly impossible technology continue to niggle at the edges of our conventional understanding. It's like finding a cryptic message in a bottle. You know it means something, but deciphering it across millennia is the real puzzle. You imagine an ancient astronomer, not with a telescope, but with a knowledge bestowed upon them, pointing to a star and explaining its hidden companion, or describing the elliptical path of a planet long before Kepler. Perhaps these were not discoveries, but rather inheritances, echoes of advanced knowledge gently deposited into the collective human consciousness. The star map above you seems to shimmer, inviting you to look closer, to see beyond the familiar patterns and recognize the faint outlines of another story. One written not in ink, but in the very fabric of our earliest memories and beliefs. You realize that sometimes the most profound truths are hidden in plain sight, disguised as folklore, waiting for eyes open enough to perceive them. You descend deeper now, not into ancient chambers, but into the chilling depths of the ocean, where sunlight fears to tread and time itself seems to slow to a glacial pace. The pressure builds around you, an immense silent weight, as you begin to explore the realm of sunken secrets. Imagine yourself in a high-tech submersible, its powerful lights cutting through the inky blackness, revealing shapes that defy geological explanation. We're talking about structures, immense and symmetrical, found on the seabed, far from any known coastline or tectonic activity that could explain their formation. The mainstream historical fact is that human civilization, as we understand it, has only been capable of large-scale construction on land for a relatively short period, certainly not millions of years ago, and definitely not at depth that would require advanced underwater technology. Your submersible glides over what looks like an impossibly straight wall, stretching for miles, formed of perfectly cut blocks. This isn't a natural rock formation. It has the unmistakable hallmarks of design, of intelligent construction. You think of the Bimini Road near the Bahamas, a quirky or fringe tidbit often cited by those who believe in sunken cities. It's a mile-long underwater formation of limestone blocks, arranged in a remarkably straight line. While mainstream geologists argue it's a natural beach rock formation, the regularity of the blocks, their apparent jointing, and the sheer linearity make you pause. Was it a road for an ancient aquatic civilization? Or perhaps, as some suggest, a landing strip for something that came from the sky and needed a stable, submerged platform? The very idea challenges your perception of what's possible in Earth's deep past. Consider the immense technological challenge of building such structures underwater even today. Divers with specialized equipment, remotely operated vehicles, immense cranes, all are required. Now picture a civilization, perhaps millions of years ago, capable of such feats. This isn't just about moving heavy stones, it's about precision engineering in an incredibly hostile environment. It pushes the boundaries of what we conceive as ancient technology. You move on, and the submersible lights illuminate something even more perplexing. Immense, circular structures, almost like perfect rings, carved into the seafloor. Some whisper of the Yonaguni Monument off the coast of Japan, a colossal underwater rock formation that bears a striking resemblance to terraced pyramids and carved animal figures. It's an open scholarly debate whether it's a natural geological formation shaped by millennia of seismic activity and currents, or a submerged remnant of a forgotten civilization. You look at the sharp angles, the flat surfaces, the apparent staircases, and you can almost feel the collective shrug of mainstream archaeologists trying to explain away its uncanny regularity. Could it be a natural wonder? Perhaps. But could it also be a submerged city, built by a society far older and more advanced than we've dared to imagine? The implications are staggering. If there were civilizations capable of constructing on such a scale millions of years ago, then our timeline of human development is fundamentally flawed. And if these structures are not human in origin, then who built them? The idea of aquatic extraterrestrials suddenly doesn't seem quite so far-fetched. Imagine a species that evolved in a water world, mastering the depths, building cities beneath the waves. Their visits to Earth might naturally involve establishing bases in our own oceans, places where they could remain hidden from our surface-dwelling ancestors. It would be the perfect cosmic hiding spot after all. You probably haven't given much thought to what lies beneath the vast expanses of our oceans, but now a chill runs down your spine. Think of the strange Baltic Sea anomaly, a mainstream internet sensation and fringe object of fascination. Discovered in 2011 by oceanographers, it's a massive circular object approximately 60 metres in diameter, sitting on the seafloor of the Baltic Sea. Its unusual shape and the drag marks leading up to it sparked intense speculation. A sunken UFO? A natural rock? A forgotten Nazi anti-submarine device? Mainstream scientists generally dismiss it as a natural glacial deposit, but the peculiar symmetry and the accompanying path remain stubbornly unexplained to the satisfaction of many. It's like finding a perfectly round, perfectly smooth pebble in your garden, but it's the size of a double-decker bus. You'd at least raise an eyebrow, wouldn't you? The oceans are, after all, Earth's last great frontier. Over 80% of our ocean floor remains unmapped and unexplored. We have better maps of the surface of Mars than we do of our own seabeds. This mainstream historical fact about our limited oceanic exploration means there's an enormous amount of room for hidden wonders and hidden structures to exist completely undisturbed for millennia. You could be floating just miles above an incredible ancient city right now, completely oblivious. Some ancient texts, a quirky tidbit to consider, speak of submerged lands and civilizations. Plato's Atlantis is the most famous, but many cultures have their own flood myths and tales of great cities lost beneath the waves. While these are usually interpreted as allegorical or based on real coastal floods, what if some are dim memories, passed down through oral tradition, of genuine land masses that sank, or even extraterrestrial bases that were deliberately submerged? The consistency of these themes across global cultures, from the lost continent of Mu in the Pacific to the submerged city of Dwarka in Indian mythology, suggests a shared cultural memory of cataclysm and loss. Historians still argue whether plate tectonics and sea level changes can fully account for all submerged archaeological claims. While geological processes explain much, some formations, like those at Yonaguni, just seem too precise, too artificial. The debate often boils down to a conflict between geology and archaeology, with neither discipline fully able to encompass the other's evidence. It's like two skilled debaters arguing over whether an object is a natural sculpture or a piece of art. Both sides have valid points, but the truth might lie in a third, unimagined category. Imagine the ultimate camouflage. If you were an extraterrestrial species observing a nascent civilization on a planet primarily covered by water, where would you establish your long-term observation posts or temporary staging areas? The depths of the ocean offer unparalleled concealment. The immense pressure, the perpetual darkness, and the sheer scale of the environment would keep you hidden from any surface-dwelling species for millions of years. For them, a brief visit to the surface to interact with early hominids would be a quick jaunt, a research excursion, before retreating back to their watery sanctuary. The thought of advanced beings residing beneath the waves, observing our clumsy ascent from the primordial soup, is a powerful one. They wouldn't need to announce their presence with flashing lights and booming voices. A subtle influence, a shared piece of knowledge, a dropped tool, or even just a scientific observation would be enough. Perhaps they witnessed the dramatic shifts in Earth's climate, the rise and fall of ancient supercontinents, and the slow, arduous march of evolution. They could have been the silent chroniclers of Earth's long story, tucked away in their abyssal strongholds. You consider the acoustic anomalies occasionally reported by navies around the world, unidentified underwater objects, UFOs, or rather UAPs, unidentified anomalous phenomena that operate underwater, sometimes referred to as USOs, unidentified submerged objects, moving at impossible speeds, performing maneuvers that defy known physics. While these reports are classified and often dismissed, they add another layer to the mystery. Could some of these be the modern manifestation of those ancient aquatic visitors, still here, still watching, still operating from bases we cannot fathom. It's a fringe idea, of course, but the vast, unexplored abyss of our oceans provides the perfect canvas for such speculation. As you ascend from the crushing pressures of the deep, leaving the vast, silent structures behind, you carry with you a renewed sense of wonder and unease. The ocean, which you once saw as a mere body of water, now feels like a vast secretive library, holding chapters of Earth's history that are yet to be opened. The sunken secrets whisper of a past far more complex and perhaps far more populated than we've ever allowed ourselves to believe. And as the surface light breaks through the water, you wonder what else lies hidden, waiting to be discovered, patiently waiting for humanity to be ready to understand its true origins. You emerge from the imagined depths and find yourself standing on sun-baked plains, staring up at colossal stone structures that pierce the sky. These aren't natural mountains, but impossibly precise constructions that dwarf everything around them. The pyramids. Whether in Egypt, Mexico, or elsewhere, these monumental edifices stand as a testament to engineering prowess that, for their supposed time of construction, seems almost otherworldly. The mainstream historical fact is that the Egyptian pyramids, particularly the Great Pyramid of Giza, were built thousands of years ago using rudimentary tools and immense human labour. But as you gaze upon their sheer scale and geometric perfection, you can't help but ask, how? And more importantly, why do they appear in so many disparate cultures, often with striking similarities, across continents and millennia? You walk around the base of a virtual Great Pyramid, feeling the weight of millions of precisely cut stones, some weighing many tons, stacked to an incredible height. The precision of the stonework, the alignment with cardinal directions, and the astronomical correlations are all mainstream historical facts that continue to astound engineers and archaeologists. Mainstream explanations involve ramps, levers, and armies of labourers. But then you encounter the nagging questions. How are such massive blocks lifted hundreds of feet? How are they cut with such accuracy that, in some places, you can't even slip a credit card between the joints? And how was such perfect alignment achieved with the technology available thousands of years ago? It's like trying to build a skyscraper with only a hammer and chisel. You can envision the struggle, but the final product seems to defy the means. This leads to an open, scholarly debate. Were the pyramid builders simply extraordinarily ingenious and disciplined, or did they possess knowledge and perhaps even tools that have been lost to history? Or, more provocatively, were they assisted? Proponents of the ancient astronaut theory suggest that the precision, scale, and astronomical alignments hint at a level of understanding that exceeds what we attribute to Bronze Age societies. They argue that some form of advanced guidance, or even direct intervention, might have been involved. The sheer efficiency and sophistication required to move and place millions of multi-ton blocks defy easy explanation. Consider the impossible stones at Baalbek in Lebanon, a quirky or fringe tidbit that makes you scratch your head. Here you find the stone of the pregnant woman, a megalith weighing over 1,000 tons left in the quarry, and other blocks even larger integrated into the temple platform. These are some of the largest cut stones on Earth. Moving them with ancient technology would be a logistical nightmare, if not outright impossible, by modern estimates. Yet they sit there, silent witnesses to a forgotten method, or perhaps forgotten assistance. You envision an ancient construction site, not with grunting labourers and wooden rollers, but with something else. Something that could effortlessly lift and position such immense weight. Perhaps even a gentle levitating hum or an anti-gravity device. The kind of technology we still only dream of. The global distribution of pyramids is another fascinating aspect. From the stepped pyramids of Mesoamerica, like Teotihuacan or Chichen Itza, to the ziggurats of Mesopotamia and the pyramids of China, you see a recurring architectural motif. While their purposes and construction methods differed, the fundamental idea of building massive, often geometrically precise, pyramid-shaped structures emerged across cultures separated by vast oceans and without apparent historical contact. This is a mainstream historical fact of architectural parallelism. Could this be independent cultural convergence, a natural architectural solution to building tall structures? Or is it a cultural memory, a shared blueprint from a common, non-human source? You ponder the possibility of a visiting architect who shared basic structural principles with different nascent civilizations around the world, adapting. What if ancient builders possessed knowledge of sonic levitation, or forms of energy we don't yet comprehend, allowing them to manipulate massive stones with ease? The idea that these colossal structures weren't built by brute force alone, but by a lost science or an alien gift, adds a thrilling, if controversial, dimension to their mystery. You can almost hear the low hum of ancient power tools, vibrations that moved stone as if it were mere dust. The alignment of the Giza pyramids with Orion's belt, particularly the three main pyramids mirroring the three stars, is another compelling observation. While some mainstream archaeologists dismiss this as coincidental or a forced interpretation, the precision involved is striking. It suggests an advanced understanding of celestial mechanics and a deliberate intention to embed astronomical data into their monumental architecture. This astronomical knowledge, a mainstream historical fact in many ancient cultures, takes on a new light when considered in the context of alien visitation. Were they simply keen observers, or were they taught the secrets of the cosmos by beings who travelled amongst those very stars? Historians still argue whether the pyramid complex at Giza was primarily a tomb, an astronomical observatory, or something else entirely. The internal shafts of the Great Pyramid, for example, align with specific stars like Thuban, the pole star of the time, and Orion. Were these shafts purely symbolic, facilitating the pharaoh's journey to the afterlife, or did they serve a more practical, perhaps even technological purpose? The debate highlights the limits of our interpretation, when faced with structures whose functions may have been far more complex than we can easily grasp from our modern perspective. It's like trying to understand a supercomputer by only looking at its external casing. You see the form, but you miss the immense internal complexity and purpose. The mythology surrounding pyramid construction in some cultures also bears closer examination. In Mesoamerica, for example, stories often speak of gods or culture heroes who descended from the sky and taught humans how to build, how to farm, and how to create complex societies. While these are typically viewed as allegories for natural forces or the rise of priestly classes, the persistent motif of an external divine teacher aligns remarkably well with the ancient astronaut hypothesis. You envision these gods as not supernatural beings, but highly advanced extraterrestrials, their technology so far beyond human comprehension that it was naturally interpreted as magic or divinity. Perhaps the most compelling argument for external influence lies in the speed with which advanced construction techniques seem to appear in some ancient societies, a mainstream historical fact. It's as if a switch was flipped. Suddenly, from rudimentary huts, humanity began constructing incredibly sophisticated structures, seemingly without a long gradual evolutionary period of trial and error in construction methods. While human ingenuity is undeniable, the suddenness and precision of some of these ancient builds make you wonder if there was an accelerant, a shortcut provided by those who had already mastered such challenges on distant worlds. You consider the crystal skulls, a controversial and quirky fringe tidbit. While often dismissed as modern fakes, some proponents argue that certain examples, if genuine and ancient, defy known carving techniques for their time. The idea that ancient cultures possessed tools or knowledge to carve quartz with such precision sparks the imagination. While the evidence is shaky, the persistent desire to find lost technology hints at a deep-seated intuition that our ancestors might have been capable of more than we generally assume, perhaps due to external influence. As you step away from the virtual pyramids, their silent grandeur continues to challenge your understanding of history. They stand as immutable questions, embedded in the very landscape of our planet. Were they built by human hands alone, driven by an almost unbelievable level of determination and ingenuity? Or do they whisper of a time when the gap between primitive humanity and technologically advanced visitors was bridged, perhaps to give us a jump start, or simply to leave a lasting impression? The answers remain elusive, hidden within the millions of perfectly fitted stones, but the questions themselves are a monument to our enduring fascination with the unknown. You feel the sun on your face, but this isn't the scorching desert heat of the pyramids. Instead, a cool, ancient breeze sweeps over a landscape dotted with impossibly large, rough-hewn stones, standing in solemn circles or defying gravity as they perch on edges. You're now immersed in the enigma of megalithic mysteries, vast stone structures like Stonehenge, Göbekli Tepe, and countless others scattered across the globe. The mainstream historical fact is that these structures were built by prehistoric peoples using immense communal effort and ingenious, albeit primitive, techniques. But the sheer scale, the astronomical alignments, and the unknown purpose of many of these sites whisper of something more, something that stretches the boundaries of our accepted narrative of early human capabilities. Imagine standing amidst the massive blue stones of Stonehenge, feeling their cool, rough surfaces. You consider the colossal undertaking, stones weighing up to 40 tons, transported hundreds of miles from distant quarries, then precisely erected into a complex astronomical calendar. Mainstream archaeology explains this through the use of ropes, levers, and rollers, powered by sheer human muscle and determination. But a persistent question lingers, fueling an open scholarly debate. How did these ancient peoples achieve such feats without the benefit of the wheel, or even advanced metal tools? Could the precise movements and placements have been achieved through methods unknown to us, or perhaps with a subtle nudge from an external, technologically superior force? It's like watching a child build an intricate sandcastle, but then realizing they've somehow incorporated reinforced concrete without any apparent tools or knowledge. You travel mentally to Göbekli Tepe in southeastern Turkey, a truly mind-bending site. This isn't just an arrangement of big rocks. It's a complex of massive, intricately carved T-shaped pillars, some weighing 20 tons, dating back some 11,600 years, making it thousands of years older than Stonehenge, and even the invention of agriculture. This mainstream historical fact completely upends the traditional timeline of human civilization, suggesting complex social organization and monumental construction existed before settled farming communities. It pushes back the origins of complex human society by millennia. What prompted hunter-gatherers to suddenly embark on such a colossal and intricate construction project? Was it spiritual awakening, a sudden leap in understanding, or something else entirely? A quirky tidbit often brought up when discussing megaliths is the phenomenon of stone resonance. Some researchers claim that certain megalithic sites exhibit unusual acoustic properties, with stones resonating at specific frequencies, sometimes even at frequencies beneficial to the human brain. While highly speculative and often dismissed by mainstream science, it makes you wonder if these ancient builders, or their potential guides, understood principles of sound and vibration that we're only now beginning to explore. Could these structures have served a purpose beyond the merely physical, perhaps as ancient healing centres, or even communication hubs harnessing subtle energies of the earth? You imagine standing within a stone circle, feeling a low hum, a vibration that subtly alters your perception, a primitive yet potent form of technology. The precision of some of these megalithic alignments with celestial events, like solstices and equinoxes, is a mainstream historical fact. Stonehenge is perhaps the most famous example, acting as a giant, sophisticated calendar. This demonstrates an advanced understanding of astronomy for prehistoric peoples. But where did this sophisticated astronomical knowledge come from? Was it the culmination of generations of patient observation, or was it somehow gifted or accelerated by those who possessed an even greater understanding of the cosmos? You can almost picture an ancient astronomer, not with a telescope, but with a guiding hand, pointing out the precise moment the sun would rise over a particular stone, marking the turning of the seasons. Historians still argue whether the purpose of these megalithic sites was primarily ritualistic, astronomical, or even territorial. Göbekli Tepe, being a pre-agricultural site, challenges the notion that monumental architecture only emerged with settled communities and surplus food. It suggests a more complex social dynamic, driven by something other than immediate survival. It's like finding a fully furnished mansion in the middle of a hunter-gatherer camp. You'd wonder what compelled them to build it, and how they managed it. Consider the lost city of Nan Madol in Micronesia, a mainstream historical fact of an ancient city built on 92 artificial islands made of massive basalt logs, weighing up to 50 tons. These logs were quarried miles away and transported to the site. The local legends speak of a powerful sorcerer who used magic to fly the stones into place. While mainstream archaeology offers theories involving rafts and levering, the scale and complexity, particularly the lack of mortar and the interlocking nature of the logs, make the construction seem almost impossible for the period around 1200 to 1500 AD. Was it magic? or a memory of a technology so advanced it appeared magical to the builders. The recurring motif of massive, precisely cut stones across various ancient cultures, often defying the capabilities of known tools, leads to a profound question. From the cyclopean walls of Sacsayhuaman in Peru, where stones fit together with incredible precision without mortar, to the inexplicable stone spheres of Costa Rica, you see patterns of unexplained megalithic feats. These aren't just big rocks. They're often engineered with an artistry and precision that seems to leapfrog over centuries of expected technological progression. It's as if different ancient civilizations received a masterclass in large-scale construction, but the instructor remains a mystery. A quirky tidbit often associated with these sites is the concept of ley lines, hypothetical alignments of ancient sites, megaliths, and natural landforms, believed to carry telluric energy or mark ancient paths. While dismissed as pseudo-scientific by most, the idea persists in fringe circles that ancient builders, perhaps guided by non-human intelligence, understood a global energy grid or subtle earth forces that informed the placement of their massive structures. You imagine a cosmic surveyor mapping out energy nodes on a nascent Earth, instructing early humans to build monuments at specific, powerful locations. The sheer consistency of impossible construction techniques, whether it's the precise cutting, the immense lifting, or the intricate fitting across continents and distinct cultural groups, becomes difficult to dismiss as mere coincidence. While human ingenuity is undeniably vast, the recurring pattern suggests either a globally shared, but now lost super technology, or a common external influence. It's like finding the same unique signature on masterpieces from different artists across the world. You start to suspect a common mentor. The long ages over which some of these structures were built or seemingly abandoned also prompts questions. Göbekli Tepe was intentionally buried thousands of years ago, as if its purpose had concluded or its secrets needed to be hidden. Stonehenge saw multiple phases of construction and modification over centuries. Did the instructions change? Did the teachers depart, leaving humanity to continue the work, perhaps imperfectly? This open, scholarly debate about the precise timeline and cultural motivations for building these sites often leaves room for alternative interpretations that consider external factors. You might find yourself pondering the sheer dedication required to build these structures. Was it driven purely by religious fervour, by a desire to honour unseen gods? Or was there a more pragmatic reason, a directive from a more advanced intelligence that understood the long-term benefits of these monumental calendars, observatories, or energy conduits? The idea of pre-engineered landscapes where certain sites were chosen or even subtly altered by ancient visitors before human hands laid the first stone is a profound and unsettling thought. As the sun sets over the imagined megaliths, casting long, eerie shadows across the landscape, you realise that these silent stones are more than just ancient ruins. They are enduring questions, carved into the very face of the earth, challenging our self-contained narrative of human progress. They are monuments not just to human effort, but perhaps to an untold story of interaction, guidance, or observation from beyond our world, a secret whispered through stone for millions of years. You step away from the monumental shadows of the megaliths and enter a different kind of historical inquiry, one where the whispers of the past are found not in colossal stone, but in the subtle glint of metal, the curious texture of an impossible material, or the inexplicable precision of a tiny ancient mechanism. This is the realm of lost tech, artifacts that seem to defy the known technological capabilities of the civilizations that supposedly created them. The mainstream historical fact is that technological progress is generally linear, a slow incremental accumulation of knowledge, building from simple tools to complex machines. But what if there are glaring exceptions, sudden leaps that cannot be explained by our current understanding of history? Imagine holding in your hand a miniature, almost perfectly engineered coil spring, or a tiny gear, unearthed from a coal seam dating back millions of years. This isn't a hypothetical. You think of the Kingoody hammer, or the iron nail found in a Scottish coal mine in the 19th century, mainstream historical curiosities that were embedded in geological strata, far older than the supposed existence of intelligent toolmakers. While often dismissed as geological anomalies or modern intrusions, the persistent reports of such items challenge the neatly packaged timeline of human technological development. It's like finding a microchip in a Roman mosaic, It just doesn't fit. Consider the Iron Pillar of Delhi, a mainstream historical fact that continues to baffle metallurgists. This massive iron column, standing over 23 feet tall and weighing more than 6 tons, has stood exposed to the elements for over 1,600 years without rusting. Its rust-resistant composition, featuring a high phosphorus content and a protective passive film, demonstrates an advanced knowledge of metallurgy that was supposedly not achieved until much later in human history. How did ancient Indian artisans master such techniques without modern scientific understanding of chemical properties? Was it an intuitive genius, or a forgotten method, perhaps even a technique shared by someone who had already mastered advanced material science? This leads to an open, scholarly debate. Are these examples of incredible, isolated bursts of human genius that have been lost to time, or do they hint at a more consistent, perhaps even external influence that periodically introduced advanced knowledge? Mainstream historians lean towards the former, emphasizing human ingenuity, but the sheer, out-of-place nature of some objects begs for a wider explanation. It's like finding a perfectly preserved, high-performance sports car from the 1800s. You'd have to wonder if it was built by a secret inventor, or if it somehow arrived from the future. You recall a quirky or fringe tidbit, the Piri Reis map, drawn in 1513 by an Ottoman admiral. This map depicts parts of the western coast of Africa, the eastern coast of South America, and most controversially the coastline of Antarctica, supposedly free of ice. Antarctica wasn't officially discovered until 1820, and its coastline hasn't been ice-free for thousands of years. The map also shows remarkably accurate longitudes, which were impossible to determine accurately at sea until the invention of the chronometer in the 18th century. Piri Reis himself stated he compiled his map from much older sources, including some drawn in the time of Alexander the Great. How could ancient source maps depict an ice-free Antarctica with such precision? Was it a product of advanced ancient cartography, or did they have access to information from an even more advanced source? Perhaps aerial surveys conducted long before human flight. The map itself is a mainstream historical artifact, but its implications for lost knowledge are profound. Think about the dropper stones, a highly controversial and fringe tidbit. Allegedly discovered in a cave in China in 1938, these 12,000-year-old stone discs are said to have grooves resembling hieroglyphs that tell the story of a spacecraft crash-landing on Earth and its alien occupants, the Drupa, being unable to repair their ship. While widely dismissed as a hoax or misinterpretation, the enduring story highlights humanity's fascination with the idea of ancient advanced technology and extraterrestrial contact. You imagine deciphering such a relic, the ancient text telling a tale of cosmic journeys and unexpected landings, a literal stone record of an alien encounter. The concept of lost ancient technology isn't limited to physical objects. It also encompasses lost knowledge, lost processes. Consider the Roman concrete, a mainstream historical fact whose durability still puzzles modern engineers. Structures like the Pantheon have stood for nearly 2 millennia, enduring earthquakes and the elements, while modern concrete often degrades in decades. The Romans used volcanic ash to create a concrete that was far more resistant to cracking and erosion, especially in marine environments. While we can analyse its composition, the precise methods and understanding that led to its superior performance are still being actively researched and rediscovered. Was this a unique human discovery, or a technique passed down from a civilization with a deeper understanding of material science? Historians still argue whether some ancient texts, like those describing flying chariots, Vimanas, as we discussed, or advanced weaponry, are purely mythological or contain elements of forgotten technological memory. The descriptions are often vivid, detailing features and capabilities that sound suspiciously like modern machines rather than fantastical beasts. Could these be the historical echo of highly advanced technology observed in the distant past? Technology that was so far beyond the comprehension of the observers that it was inevitably woven into the fabric of myth and legend. It's like an ancient scribe trying to describe a helicopter. They might call it a whirling sky chariot of the gods. You think of the Saqqara bird from ancient Egypt, a mainstream archaeological find. While typically interpreted as a ceremonial bird carving, some proponents of lost technology argue its aerodynamic shape suggests it could be a model of a glider or an ancient aircraft. Its design, if scaled up, seems to possess aerodynamic properties. Was it a toy, a decorative item, or a testament to a forgotten understanding of flight principles? This quirky tidbit often sparks debate about the true extent of ancient Egyptian knowledge. The recurring theme is one of a technological reset. It's as if humanity reaches a certain peak, then experiences a cataclysm or decline, and has to start over, losing crucial knowledge in the process. This idea, while speculative, is not without historical precedent on a smaller scale. Think of the Dark Ages in Europe after the fall of the Roman Empire, where much classical knowledge was indeed lost. But what if this reset happened on a grander, more ancient scale, perhaps influenced or even caused by events related to extraterrestrial visitation or departure? The very idea of a global ancient civilization possessing advanced technology is a fringe theory that attempts to explain many of these parts. Imagine a time, millions of years ago, when a sophisticated human or non-human civilization thrived on Earth, perhaps interacting with early hominids. This civilization might have developed advanced metallurgy, construction techniques, or even energy sources that have since been lost to the ravages of time, geological shifts, and perhaps even deliberate concealment. Their remnants are the OOP arts, the baffling structures, the inexplicable knowledge. As you consider these disparate pieces of lost tech, you realise they collectively paint a picture that doesn't quite fit the standard historical canvas. They are smudges, errant brushstrokes, that suggest a different masterpiece was once here, or that the artist had a very different set of tools than we assume. Whether these tools were human inventions lost to the mists of time, or gifts from beyond the stars, the implication is the same. Our ancestors might have lived in a world far more technologically sophisticated and far more mysterious than we typically imagine, a world where the lines between history and speculation are delightfully, frustratingly blurred. You transition from the cold, hard evidence of ancient artifacts to the vibrant, often perplexing realm of human belief systems and oral traditions. Here, the story of ancient visitation takes on a more spiritual, perhaps even divine dimension. You're now exploring the pervasive and compelling narrative of sky gods, deities, and mythical beings who descend from the heavens to interact with humanity, bringing knowledge, laws, and sometimes even destruction. The mainstream historical fact is that nearly every ancient culture across the globe developed a pantheon of gods and goddesses, many of whom were associated with the sky, the stars, or celestial phenomena. But what if these weren't merely personifications of natural forces or human aspirations, but distorted memories of actual encounters with beings from beyond our world? Imagine an early human, awestruck and terrified, witnessing a gleaming craft descend from the sky, accompanied by strange beings. Their technology, their appearance, their very presence would be utterly incomprehensible, naturally interpreted as divine manifestation. You're trying to describe a smartphone to a caveman. He might call it a glowing rock that speaks in tongues. This leads to an open, scholarly debate. Are these myths purely imaginative constructs, reflecting the human psyche's need for meaning and order, or do they contain a kernel of historical truth, passed down through generations, transformed and embellished into sacred lore? Consider the Sumerian Anunnaki, a crucial and compelling example often cited in this context. These are mainstream historical figures within Sumerian mythology, described in ancient cuneiform texts. The Anunnaki are depicted as powerful beings who came down from the heavens to earth, interacted directly with humanity, taught them agriculture, writing, and sophisticated knowledge, and even allegedly engaged in genetic manipulation to create Homo sapiens as a subservient race. While mainstream archaeology interprets them as personifications of natural forces or deified kings, the detailed narratives of their arrival, their cities in the heavens, and their direct involvement in human affairs sound strikingly like accounts of extraterrestrial contact. You can almost hear the booming voice of an Anunnaki god dictating laws to a trembling human populace, their advanced technology mistaken for divine power. Then there's the Book of Ezekiel from the Old Testament, a mainstream religious text. In a notoriously cryptic passage, Ezekiel describes a vision of a whirlwind out of the north, a great cloud, and a fire enfolding itself, and a brightness was about it. He goes on to describe living creatures that had the likeness of a man, but also wheels within wheels, and moved with incredible speed and agility, accompanied by sounds like the noise of great waters and the noise of a host. This description, a quirky tidbit often debated, has been interpreted by some as a vivid, albeit technologically primitive account of a UFO landing and its occupants. While traditional religious scholars interpret it symbolically, the level of mechanical detail and the dynamic movements described leads some to wonder if Ezekiel was witnessing something truly physical, something beyond his comprehension, which he then translated into the only terms available to him, the divine. The theme of culture heroes or teachers descending from the sky is remarkably consistent across global mythologies, from the feathered serpent god Quetzalcoatl in Mesoamerican traditions, who arrived from the sea, or sky, depending on the interpretation, to bring knowledge of agriculture, writing and civilization to Owans of Babylonian mythology, an amphibious being who emerged from the sea to teach humans wisdom. The pattern is undeniable. These are mainstream historical myths, yet their uniformity raises questions. Were these isolated cultural inventions, or echoes of a common global interaction? It's like finding the same distinctive brand of coffee served in ancient temples on opposite sides of the world. You start to suspect a shared supplier. Historians still argue whether the detailed descriptions of the gods in various pantheons are purely symbolic or contain any historical, albeit highly allegorical basis. The argument often centres on the distinction between myth as a reflection of internal human experience versus myth as a reflection of external historical events. When the gods are described not merely as abstract forces, but as beings who eat, sleep, fight, and even have children with humans, the line between divine and physical beings becomes deliciously blurred. Consider the Kachinas of the Hopi Native Americans, a quirky fringe tidbit. These are spirits, or ancestral beings, often depicted as figures with large round heads or helmets, who interact with the Hopi and are said to live in mountains and bring rain. Hopi traditions include detailed descriptions of the Kachinas arriving from the sky in flying shields or windmakers. While traditionally understood as spiritual entities, their physical descriptions and mode of arrival resonate strongly with modern UFO sightings and alien encounter narratives. You can almost see a Hopi artist trying to depict a non-human visitor in a protective suit, using their traditional artistic language. The concept of humanity being created or guided by superior beings is also deeply embedded in many ancient narratives. The Marduk and Tiamat creation myth from Mesopotamia, for instance, details a cosmic battle and the creation of humanity from the blood of a fallen god. While this is mainstream mythology, the idea of creation by powerful intelligent entities, rather than a spontaneous emergence, is a recurring theme that aligns with ancient astronaut theories suggesting genetic intervention. Were our ancestors literally engineered or uplifted by technologically advanced visitors? Mainstream historical fact: many ancient cultures practiced ritualistic sacrifice, including human sacrifice, often to appease these powerful sky gods. If these gods were in fact extraterrestrial visitors, what would this imply about their ethics or their needs? This is a darker consideration, but it prompts a chilling thought. If they were indeed seen as gods, any demands they made, however brutal, would likely be fulfilled. It opens up uncomfortable questions about the nature of ancient alien interaction, the very notion of divine right, of kings, a mainstream historical political concept where rulers claimed their authority directly from the gods, could be seen through a different lens. If ancient rulers were indeed descended from, or appointed by, these powerful sky beings, it would lend immense legitimacy to their rule. The lineage of pharaohs, claiming descent from the sun god Ra, takes on a new, unsettling meaning if Ra was not a sun deity, but an actual physically present, powerful being. Historians still argue about the precise origins and evolution of religious belief. Did it arise from awe of nature, fear of the unknown, or a primordial encounter with something truly extraordinary? The commonalities in tales of sky dwellers and their interactions with early humanity are too frequent to dismiss lightly. It's like listening to different musical instruments play the same melody. The timbre might change, but the core tune remains identical. You think of the strange, elongated skulls found in various ancient cultures, a quirky fringe tidbit often associated with claims of alien-human hybrids. While mainstream anthropology attributes these to intentional cranial deformation practices, proponents of ancient visitation suggest they could be an attempt to emulate the appearance of visitors who naturally possessed such head shapes. The desire to mimic the gods is a powerful human trait, but if the gods had unusual physical characteristics, the imitation could lead to some truly bizarre practices. As you consider the countless tales of sky gods, celestial chariots, and divine interventions, you realize that humanity's oldest stories might not be mere fantasy. They could be the oldest historical records we possess, accounts passed down through the mists of time, describing encounters that shaped our very understanding of the world and our place within it. The idea that our deities were once, or still are, visitors from distant stars fundamentally changes the narrative of human spiritual and historical development. You imagine the weight of that realization, the profound shift in perspective as the divine becomes quite literally extraterrestrial. You move from the grand narratives of sky gods into the intricate details, the subtle marks left on the very face of our planet that suggest a shared, mysterious past. You're now examining global glyphs, symbols and patterns that recur in ancient art and architecture across continents, often in cultures that had no known historical contact. The mainstream historical fact is that human cultures developed independently, with similar symbols arising from universal human experiences or archetypes. But what if these recurring symbols, these visual echoes from antiquity, are not mere coincidence, but rather a universal language, a set of instructions, or a shared memory imprinted by an external source? Imagine tracing a finger over a symbol, say a spiral or a zigzag pattern found on pottery in ancient Mesopotamia, then seeing almost identical markings on artifacts from the Pueblo peoples of the American Southwest, and again on megaliths in Ireland. The visual similarity is striking, a mainstream historical phenomenon. Are these merely the simplest shapes to draw, or do they carry a deeper, shared meaning? A common message conveyed across vast distances and time? You ponder the possibility of a cosmic Rosetta Stone, a set of visual cues that hint at a broader unified communication. Consider the Tree of Life motif, a pervasive symbol across numerous ancient cultures, from Sumerian reliefs to Norse mythology, and even in ancient Egyptian art. It depicts a central tree, often flanked by two symmetrical figures, sometimes winged, sometimes human-like, tending to it. While typically interpreted as a symbol of cosmic connection, fertility, or knowledge, a quirky or fringe tidbit suggests these flanking figures could be interpretations of extraterrestrial beings, guarding or cultivating essential knowledge or even genetic material. The consistency of this specific imagery, across cultures that had no apparent interaction, is intriguing. You imagine an alien botanist meticulously tending to a specific terrestrial life form, observed and then mythologized by early humans. This leads to an open, scholarly debate. Are these symbolic similarities evidence of universal human archetypes and independent cultural evolution, or do they point towards a common source of inspiration, or even direct instruction? Mainstream scholarship often favours the former, emphasising convergent evolution of ideas. However, the uncanny resemblances, particularly in complex symbols or narratives, often push the boundaries of coincidence. It's like finding the same complex, unique tattoo design on people from entirely different parts of the world who've never met. You'd suspect a single artist, or at least a shared template. Think about the prevalence of serpent or reptilian imagery in ancient mythologies and art, a mainstream historical fact. From the feathered serpent Quetzalcoatl in Mesoamerica, associated with wisdom and creation, to the Nagas of Indian mythology, depicted as semi-divine, intelligent serpent beings, the motif is ubiquitous. While often interpreted as symbolic of cycles, transformation, or primal forces, some alternative theories suggest these could be distorted depictions of intelligent reptilian beings, perhaps from another world, who interacted with early humanity. You conjure an image of beings with elongated faces or scaly skin, their appearance so striking that it became etched into the collective human consciousness as a powerful, archetypal figure. The spiral symbol is another example. It's found in Neolithic carvings across Europe, ancient Celtic art, indigenous American petroglyphs, and even in the art of the Maori in New Zealand. This is a mainstream historical fact of global symbolic recurrence. Is it simply a universal artistic expression of movement or growth, or does it represent something deeper? Some theorists suggest it could be a representation of cosmic energy, a journey, or even a stylized depiction of a galaxy, or a celestial phenomenon, observed or understood through non-human instruction. You imagine an ancient teacher, perhaps alien, drawing a simple spiral in the dust, explaining the nature of the universe in a way a primitive mind could grasp. A quirky tidbit that often comes up in discussions of global glyphs is the squatter man, or fertility figure petroglyph. This is a recurring image found in rock art worldwide, depicting a human-like figure with splayed legs and arms, sometimes with a prominent head or headdress. While interpretations vary from shamanic figures to birth representations, the global presence and striking similarity of this specific posture across vastly separated cultures raise questions. Could it be a depiction of a specific posture of an alien being, perhaps in a suit, or even a universal symbol of creation and procreation, shared across the cosmos? It's almost as if ancient artists were all drawing from the same subconscious memory bank, or even the same visual reference book. The meticulous astronomical alignments found in many ancient structures, which we touched upon earlier, also tie into this concept of global glyphs. The very act of building a structure to align with a specific celestial event could be seen as a form of global glyph, a message embedded in the landscape, accessible only to those with the proper celestial knowledge. It's a mainstream historical fact that ancient cultures observed the heavens. The question is, how much of their understanding was gained independently, and how much was influenced? Historians still argue whether the similarities in global flood myths are due to widespread local flooding events that were then universalized, or whether they reflect a single, cataclysmic event remembered across the nascent human population, perhaps even an event witnessed and recorded by extraterrestrial observers. The common elements, a great deluge, a chosen few survivors, a vessel, are too consistent to be dismissed as mere coincidence by some. This suggests a powerful, shared memory, one that might have been reinforced or even instigated by external entities. You think about the Ankh symbol from ancient Egypt, a mainstream historical symbol of life, and its peculiar resemblance to the cross shape of the Christian tradition, or even the key found in other mythologies. While the meanings are distinct, the visual form shares a certain archetypal resonance. Could these visually similar symbols, across different cultures and belief systems, be faint echoes of a universal symbol of power, knowledge, or life-giving technology, a symbol introduced by those who traversed the stars and understood the deeper patterns of existence? The phenomenon of UFO sightings with similar descriptions across different eras, including ancient times, is another fringe concept that ties into global glyphs. If ancient cultures were indeed visited and depicted what they saw in their art and myths, it stands to reason that modern sightings, with their often consistent descriptions of craft and beings, could be a continuation of this interaction. The flying shields of ancient Rome, the chariots of fire in biblical texts, the thunderbirds of Native American lore, are these the ancient equivalents of modern UFO reports, forming a kind of global historical glyph of aerial phenomena? The consistency in the depiction of certain physical characteristics of gods or beings, large heads, elongated eyes, slender bodies, across diverse ancient art forms also warrants attention. While these are often attributed to artistic stylization, the repetition of these specific traits, regardless of cultural context or artistic school, suggests a common visual source. It's almost as if ancient artists were all trying to draw the same model, even if their techniques and materials differed. As you step back from the intricate web of global glyphs, you realize that these seemingly disparate artistic and symbolic expressions might actually form a coherent, albeit cryptic, narrative. They whisper of a time when humanity was not alone, when visitors from other worlds left their mark not just on the landscape, but on our collective consciousness, shaping our myths, our symbols, and perhaps even our fundamental understanding of who we are and where we come from. The lines etched into stone, painted on cave walls, or woven into ancient textiles, suddenly seem less like simple art, and more like an ancient universal language waiting for us to fully decipher it. You shift your focus from the intricate patterns of global glyphs to something far more visceral, far more terrifying, the echo of immense destructive power in ancient narratives. You're now delving into the realm of atomic echoes, legends and myths that describe cataclysmic events, immense fires, and devastating weaponry that sound eerily similar to modern nuclear explosions or other forms of advanced energy release. The mainstream historical fact is that ancient civilizations faced natural disasters like floods, earthquakes, and volcanic eruptions, which could certainly inspire tales of widespread destruction. But what if some of these narratives recount something far more unnatural, something truly apocalyptic, wielded by forces beyond human comprehension? Imagine standing in a desolate, glass-strewn wasteland, like the deserts of New Mexico after the Trinity test. But this wasteland is thousands of years old. You read ancient texts that speak of cities reduced to ashes, of people scorched, of ground turned to infertile dust. The Mahabharata, a mainstream historical text from ancient India, contains passages that describe a weapon of immense power, a single projectile charged with all the power of the universe, an incandescent column of smoke and flame as bright as 10,000 suns rose in all its splendour. It was an unknown weapon, an iron thunderbolt, a gigantic messenger of death, which reduced to ashes the entire race of the Vrishnis and the Andakas. The corpses were so burned as to be unrecognisable. Hair and nails fell out, pottery broke without apparent cause, and the birds whitened. After a few hours all foodstuffs were infected. To escape from this fire, the soldiers threw themselves in streams to wash themselves and their equipment. This description, a chillingly precise account of symptoms consistent with radiation sickness and nuclear fallout, is a quirky or fringe tidbit when viewed through the lens of modern warfare. How could ancient poets describe such a phenomenon without witnessing it, or having it described to them? This leads to an open scholarly debate. Are these descriptions merely allegorical, exaggerating natural disasters, or conventional warfare for dramatic effect? Or do they represent dim, fearful memories of actual cataclysms caused by advanced energy, whether terrestrial or extraterrestrial in origin? Mainstream historians largely dismiss the idea of ancient nuclear warfare, attributing such descriptions to poetic license. However, the specificity of some of the details, beyond mere fire and brimstone, continues to intrigue. It's like hearing a detailed account of a jet engine from someone who lived in the Iron Age. While they might not use the precise terminology, the description of immense heat, noise, and propulsion would be undeniably vivid. Consider the alleged evidence of ancient vitrified forts in Scotland, Ireland, and other parts of Europe, a mainstream historical curiosity. These stone structures show signs of having been subjected to immense heat, melting the stones and fusing them into a glass-like substance. While mainstream archaeology explains this as the result of intense bonfires built against the walls to strengthen them, the temperatures required to vitrify stone are extremely high, often exceeding those achievable by simple wood fires. Could these be the remnants of ancient conflicts, perhaps involving weaponry far more powerful than bows and arrows, or even early siege engines? It prompts the unsettling thought that some ancient battles might have involved technology that could literally melt stone. Think about the persistent legends of divine fire or celestial thunderbolts, wielded by gods in various mythologies. Zeus's lightning bolts, Indra's Vajra, Thor's hammer. These are mainstream mythological elements often seen as personifications of natural storms. But what if these were not just symbolic, but primitive attempts to describe energy weapons, plasma discharges, or other forms of advanced technological weaponry that were mistaken for acts of divine wrath? You imagine an alien weapon, not unlike something from a science fiction movie, discharging immense energy, its blinding flash and deafening roar misinterpreted as the direct action of an angry god. A quirky tidbit that often surfaces in this discussion is the Mohenjo-Daro glass and the enigmatic black stones. In the ruins of the ancient Indus Valley city of Mohenjo-Daro, dating back over 4,000 years, scattered pieces of blackened, melted pottery and strange glassy objects have been found, alongside skeletons often found lying in the streets as if suddenly struck down. While these findings are interpreted by mainstream archaeologists as evidence of conventional fires or natural disasters, some proponents of ancient advanced technology suggest they are consistent with the high temperatures and pressures of an airburst explosion similar to a nuclear blast. The idea of an ancient city suffering a cataclysm of such scale due to advanced weaponry is, admittedly, chilling. Mainstream historical fact: the Earth has experienced multiple impact events from asteroids and comets throughout its history, leading to mass extinctions and dramatic climate shifts. These events could certainly inspire myths of global destruction. However, the specificity of some ancient texts describing the type of destruction, not just a flood, but fire from the sky, a burning wind, or ash that blinds, nudges some towards the atomic echo interpretation. Historians still argue about the precise cause of certain sudden collapses of ancient civilizations. While climate change, disease and warfare are often cited, some collapses, particularly those leaving behind puzzling physical evidence of extreme heat or sudden, widespread destruction, remain topics of intense scholarly debate. The idea that some of these collapses were not entirely natural, or at least exacerbated by unknown forces, opens up possibilities beyond conventional explanations. You consider the Sodom and Gomorrah story from the Bible, a mainstream religious narrative. It describes cities destroyed by brimstone and fire from the Lord out of heaven. While a theological interpretation, the description of total destruction by fire and the subsequent desolation of the land has been interpreted by some as a recounting of a localized high-energy aerial explosion, possibly even a low-yield nuclear event or a directed energy weapon. You envision the terror of witnessing such an event, its power so immense it could only be attributed to a vengeful deity. The persistent myth of Atlantis' destruction, not just by water but often by a fire from the sky or a cataclysmic energy source, further adds to the atomic echo narrative. While Plato's account is literary, the recurring theme of a highly advanced civilization meeting its end in a fiery cataclysm is a common thread in many global mythologies. Was Atlantis destroyed by a natural disaster or by a technological one? Perhaps even a conflict involving advanced weaponry that was beyond our current understanding? A quirky tidbit: the alleged discovery of trinitite, a glassy substance formed from sand melted by the heat of an atomic blast, in ancient ruins in various locations around the world. While usually debunked by geological analysis, the persistence of these claims speaks to the compelling nature of the atomic echo theory. The human mind naturally seeks patterns, and when descriptions of ancient destruction align so closely with modern scientific phenomena, it's hard to resist drawing parallels. The core question remains: if advanced energy weapons or technologies existed in antiquity, how did they come to be? Were they developed by an incredibly advanced, forgotten human civilization that self-destructed? Or were they introduced, perhaps even used by extraterrestrial visitors, either in their own conflicts or in some form of intervention on Earth? The idea of gods engaging in destructive warfare, as depicted in many myths, takes on a terrifying new meaning if those battles involve technology that could scorch the Earth. As you reflect on these atomic echoes, you realize that the pleasant, often romanticized image of antiquity might be hiding a darker, more volatile past. The ancient world, far from being pristine and untouched by advanced technology, might have witnessed cataclysms that dwarf anything in recorded human history. Events so devastating they were remembered only as divine wrath, their true technological nature lost to the mists of time. These whispers of ancient fire and devastation serve as a chilling reminder that power, whether wielded by gods or aliens, carries an immense responsibility, and its misuse can leave scars that last for millions of years. You shift from the fiery echoes of ancient destruction to the intricate blueprint of life itself, focusing on the most intimate and profound mystery of all, our own origins. You're now contemplating genetic jumble, the idea that human evolution, particularly the rapid and seemingly inexplicable leaps in our cognitive abilities, might not be solely the product of slow, natural selection, but rather influenced by external, possibly extraterrestrial genetic intervention. The mainstream historical fact is that human evolution is a long, gradual process, with Homo sapiens emerging after millions of years of hominid development, driven by environmental pressures and genetic mutations. But what if there were accelerators, nudges from a source far beyond the terrestrial? Imagine peering through a cosmic microscope, observing the double helix of DNA, the fundamental code of life. You see the familiar patterns of evolution, the slow accumulation of beneficial mutations. Then you spot something unusual, a sudden jump, a segment of genetic code that seems to appear without a clear precursor in our evolutionary lineage, or perhaps a rapid expansion of brain capacity that outpaces the typical rate of evolutionary change. This leads to an open scholarly debate. Can the incredible leap in human intelligence, abstract thought and language acquisition be fully explained by conventional evolutionary pressures alone, or does it point to a more profound, perhaps even manipulated development. Mainstream science often attributes this to environmental factors, dietary changes, and social complexity, but some argue these explanations don't entirely capture the remarkable speed of our cognitive ascent. Consider the missing link in human evolution, a mainstream historical concept. While new fossil discoveries continually fill gaps, there are still periods in the hominid timeline where the leap in brain size and complexity seems particularly pronounced and rapid. You're looking for the smooth, gradual steps, but sometimes it feels like there's a missing staircase. Some proponents of ancient alien theory suggest that these jumps could be evidence of genetic manipulation, a deliberate upgrade to our DNA by an advanced species. It's like finding a sudden, perfectly optimized piece of software code in an otherwise rudimentary program. You'd wonder who wrote it. A quirky or fringe tidbit in this area is the concept of junk DNA. For a long time, scientists referred to large portions of our genome as junk because they didn't seem to code for proteins. However, more recent research has revealed that much of this non-coding DNA plays crucial regulatory roles. But what if, in addition to these regulatory functions, some of this junk contains dormant or even encrypted information, perhaps left by ancient visitors? Some speculative theories suggest it could be a genetic time capsule, or even a biological calling card from an extraterrestrial source. You imagine unlocking a hidden sequence within your own genetic code, discovering a message left by beings from across the stars. Think about the sheer diversity of human racial groups, a mainstream historical fact. While environmental adaptation explains much, the sudden emergence of distinct physical characteristics and cognitive abilities across widely separated populations, seemingly without direct evolutionary precursors in some cases, can be puzzling. Could these variations, particularly in cognitive potential, have been subtly influenced or even orchestrated by an external intelligence, perhaps as part of a grand experiment, or an attempt to cultivate diverse human strains? The rapid development of complex language is another fascinating area. Mainstream historical fact shows that early hominids communicated, but the explosion of complex symbolic language, unique to Homo sapiens, seems to have occurred relatively suddenly in the archaeological record. While theories abound regarding the social and cognitive pressures that led to this, some alternative views propose that the capacity for complex language was either gifted or genetically enhanced by an external source. You imagine an ancient teacher not just speaking to early humans, but subtly rewiring their brains, granting them the capacity for abstract thought and sophisticated communication. Historians still argue whether the development of abstract thought and symbolic art, which appeared remarkably early in human history, e.g. cave paintings dating back tens of thousands of years, can be fully explained by conventional evolutionary models. The ability to create complex symbols, to imagine concepts beyond immediate survival, seems like a significant cognitive leap. Was it simply a natural outgrowth of larger brains, or was there an external spark that ignited this uniquely human capacity? A quirky tidbit that often arises in these discussions is the Rh-negative blood type. This blood type is relatively rare globally, yet it's more prevalent in certain populations like the Basques in Spain and some groups in the Middle East. Intriguingly, it cannot be explained by standard evolutionary pathways from primates, who are all Rh positive. Some fringe theories suggest that the Os-negative factor could be an indicator of an ancient non-human lineage, a genetic marker left by extraterrestrial visitors. It's a compelling, if unproven, idea that makes you wonder about the very composition of your own blood. The myths of creation, where gods create or fashion humans, are a mainstream historical element of nearly every culture. The Sumerian accounts of the Anunnaki creating humans from clay and their own blood, or the biblical narrative of God creating Adam, are often interpreted symbolically. But if you take them literally, as some ancient astronaut theorists do, they become detailed descriptions of genetic engineering or biological experimentation. You picture an alien scientist, not with a white lab coat, but with advanced biotechnology, carefully manipulating genetic material to shape a new species. The vastness of genetic information, the sheer complexity of the human genome, is a mainstream historical fact that continues to humble scientists. Every day, new discoveries are made about the intricate dance of genes and their profound impact on who we are. This complexity, for some, is too grand to be explained by random mutation and natural selection alone, suggesting a guiding hand or an intelligent design. While this often leads to creationist arguments in the context of ancient aliens, it shifts the designer from a supernatural deity to a highly advanced, albeit physical, extraterrestrial intelligence. Historians still argue whether the sudden emergence of highly organised hierarchical societies and the rapid adoption of agriculture, the Neolithic Revolution, was purely an internal human development, or if there were external factors that accelerated this shift. The transition from nomadic hunter-gatherer to settled farmer happened remarkably quickly in several disparate parts of the world. Was it simply a natural progression, or were there external teachers who introduced agricultural techniques and social organisation, jump-starting human civilization? You think of the numerous accounts of star children or sky people in indigenous cultures, a quirky fringe tidbit. These myths speak of beings from the stars who interbred with humans, giving rise to certain lineages or granting special abilities. While often seen as purely metaphorical, these stories resonate with the idea of ancient genetic mixing, a biological merging of human and extraterrestrial DNA. You imagine a cosmic courtship, or perhaps a more clinical genetic experiment, leading to the creation of hybrid offspring. As you contemplate the labyrinthine paths of human evolution, the idea of external genetic intervention becomes a tantalizing, if controversial, possibility. It's a theory that explains not just the rapid jumps in our development, but also the pervasive myths of creation by gods, and the persistent feeling that there's something unique, something special about Homo sapiens that sets us apart. The genetic blueprint within you, the very essence of who you are, might hold secrets far older and far more cosmic than you ever dared to imagine. It's a jumble, yes, but perhaps a jumble with a very deliberate, very alien design. You move from the microscopic world of genetics to the mysterious realm of the mind, wondering if the influence of ancient visitors extends beyond our physical DNA to the very way we think, perceive, and even communicate. You're now exploring the concept of brain buzz, the intriguing notion that our brains might be uniquely attuned to certain frequencies, patterns, or forms of information that could have been subtly influenced or even directly engaged by extraterrestrial intelligence millions of years ago. The mainstream historical fact is that the human brain, with its astonishing complexity and capacity for consciousness, developed over millennia through evolutionary pressures. But what if there's more to its wiring than just natural selection, a latent ability, or even a subtle imprint from a cosmic source? Imagine your brain not just as a biological computer, but as a sophisticated receiver, constantly processing information. What if, deep within its intricate neural networks, lies a hidden antenna, capable of picking up signals that we now dismiss as intuition, inspiration, or even dreams? This leads to an open, scholarly debate. Can phenomena like collective consciousness, sudden surges of creativity, or unexplained insights be purely attributed to internal cognitive processes, or is there a possibility of external, non-physical, or even non-human influence at play? Mainstream neuroscience focuses on observable biological mechanisms, but the subjective experience of consciousness remains a profound mystery. Consider the phenomenon of savant syndrome, a mainstream neurological curiosity. Individuals with savant syndrome often possess extraordinary abilities in specific areas, like prodigious memory, mathematical calculation, or artistic talent, far beyond what could be explained by conventional learning, often alongside developmental disorders. While the exact mechanisms are still being studied, the sudden emergence of highly specialised innate knowledge in some individuals sparks curiosity. A quirky or fringe tidbit suggests that such abilities could be echoes of a deeper, perhaps inherited form of knowledge transfer, or even a direct connection to a broader cosmic consciousness that some alien intelligences might possess. You imagine a savant, not just calculating prime numbers at lightning speed, but tapping into a universal information network, a whisper from an ancient alien library. Think about the collective unconscious proposed by Carl Jung, a mainstream psychological concept. Jung observed recurring themes, archetypes and symbols in myths, dreams and art across vastly different cultures, suggesting a shared inherited reservoir of human experience. While typically explained as a product of our shared evolutionary history and common human experiences, what if this collective unconscious is also subtly influenced by a deeper, shared cosmic memory, or even direct telepathic broadcasts from ancient visitors who understood the mechanics of consciousness far better than we do. It's like finding the same recurring dream motif across disconnected civilizations. You wonder if they're all tuning into the same cosmic radio station. The rapid development of tool use and problem-solving skills in early hominids, a mainstream historical fact, often surprises researchers. While natural selection drives adaptation, the speed at which our ancestors began to innovate, to not just use tools but create them and then refine them, seems particularly accelerated. Could there have been a cognitive jump-start, a neurological enhancement that allowed for more complex thought processes to emerge rapidly, perhaps a subtle biofeedback mechanism, or even a form of direct mental instruction, was employed by ancient visitors? A quirky tidbit that touches on brain buzz is the concept of ancient wisdom traditions, and their emphasis on altered states of consciousness. Many indigenous cultures practiced rituals, consumed entheogens, or engaged in meditation to achieve states where they claimed to communicate with spirits, ancestors, or even star beings. While interpreted as spiritual or hallucinatory experiences by mainstream science, some argue these practices might have allowed access to latent capacities within the human brain, capacities that were perhaps cultivated or even seeded by ancient visitors. You imagine a shaman, eyes rolling back, connecting with a consciousness that transcends time and space, receiving information directly from an extraterrestrial source, a cosmic internet connection without cables. Historians still argue whether the sudden proliferation of religious and spiritual beliefs, particularly the notion of an afterlife or supernatural realms, emerged purely from internal human cognitive processes, or if it was catalyzed by powerful transformative experiences, perhaps including encounters with non-human intelligences. The pervasive belief in a non-physical reality, in spirits and deities, across nearly all cultures, is a mainstream historical fact that puzzles evolutionary psychologists. Could this be an ingrained echo of encounters with beings who demonstrated powers or understanding that transcended our physical comprehension? Consider the accounts of inspiration that artists, scientists, and inventors often describe. A sudden flash of insight, a complete solution to a complex problem appearing seemingly out of nowhere. Mainstream psychology explains this through subconscious processing and neural connections. But what if occasionally these flashes are not entirely internal? What if they are subtle, highly localized downloads of information, remnants of an ancient interaction, or even ongoing low-level communication from a source beyond our current detection capabilities? It's like having a brilliant idea pop into your head, and then wondering if it was entirely yours, or if someone else subtly nudged it there. The persistent human drive to explore, to innovate, to reach for the stars, a mainstream historical trait, is often attributed to curiosity and survival instincts. But what if there's a deeper, perhaps ingrained, programming that urges us towards cosmic understanding, a legacy from those who once visited and perhaps left a lingering curiosity about their own origins embedded within us? You feel an inexplicable pull towards the night sky, a longing for something just out of reach, and wonder if it's merely poetic or a biological imperative. A quirky fringe tidbit that plays on brain buzz is the idea of galactic heritage, or starseeds, individuals who feel a deep, inexplicable connection to other star systems, or a sense of not belonging on Earth. While often dismissed as New Age fancy, these experiences resonate with the notion that some humans might carry a stronger genetic or spiritual imprint from ancient extraterrestrial ancestors, leading to unique neurological or spiritual predispositions. You encounter someone who speaks of vivid memories of distant worlds, not as dreams, but as deep, profound knowing, and you wonder if they are merely imaginative, or if their brain is buzzing with ancestral cosmic memories. The ability of certain animals, like migrating birds or salmon, to navigate vast distances with incredible accuracy, using senses we don't fully understand, e.g., magnetoreception, is a mainstream biological fact. This highlights that life can evolve senses beyond our typical five. What if humans, or our ancient ancestors, possessed a similar, now largely dormant capacity for perceiving signals or information that were crucial for interacting with ancient visitors? Perhaps a form of subconscious telepathy, or a heightened sensitivity to electromagnetic fields was once more prevalent. As you consider the incredible and still largely mysterious power of the human brain, the idea of an ancient brain buzz from extraterrestrial sources becomes less of a wild fantasy and more of a thought-provoking possibility. What if our most profound insights, our deepest spiritual yearnings, and even our most puzzling cognitive leaps are not just products of terrestrial evolution, but subtle echoes of a grander cosmic interaction that happened millions of years ago, forever altering the very fabric of our minds? It's a concept that makes your own thoughts feel a little more connected to the vast, silent universe outside your window. You move from the internal mysteries of the human brain to the external enigma of their absence. Why, if aliens have been visiting Earth for millions of years, are they not overtly present now? You are now grappling with the profound question of the alien agenda, exploring the myriad reasons why an advanced extraterrestrial civilization might choose to keep its presence hidden from humanity, particularly in the modern era. The mainstream historical fact is that humanity has yet to receive irrefutable, universally acknowledged proof of extraterrestrial visitation, despite decades of searching and countless anecdotal accounts. This silence, or apparent non-intervention, is a puzzle in itself. Imagine a highly advanced species observing our planet, perhaps for millennia. What would be their motivation for maintaining secrecy? You consider the prime directive from science fiction, a policy of non-interference with developing civilizations. This leads to an open scholarly debate. Is humanity truly ready for open contact? Would a sudden revelation of advanced alien life lead to global unity, or panic, societal collapse, and the destruction of our current social and religious structures? Many argue that the shock would be too great, that humanity must reach a certain level of maturity before such a monumental truth can be safely revealed. It's like revealing to a toddler that the monster under their bed is actually a complex, interdimensional being. Perhaps it's better to let them grow up a bit first. Consider the zoo hypothesis again, a quirky or fringe tidbit we touched upon earlier. This theory posits that Earth is being treated as a nature preserve, a cosmic zoo where humanity is allowed to develop naturally, uninfluenced by external intervention. The aliens, in this scenario, are the cosmic zookeepers, observing us from a distance, ensuring we don't accidentally blow ourselves up or contaminate their research subject. This would explain their meticulous efforts to remain unseen, only leaving subtle clues or engaging in brief, unnoticed interactions, akin to a researcher tagging an animal in the wild. You picture an alien safari, binoculars trained on our bustling, chaotic planet, noting our odd customs and even stranger political dramas. Think about the sheer disparity in technological advancement. If a civilization is millions of years ahead of us, their technology might be so far beyond our comprehension that their presence could be virtually undetectable. Their ships might operate beyond our visible spectrum. Their communication might be telepathic. Their methods of observation so subtle that our most advanced sensors wouldn't register them. This is a mainstream scientific possibility. What we consider advanced technology might be primitive to them. For them, hiding might be as simple as changing the frequency of a light bulb. The concept of resource acquisition also comes to mind. If ancient visitors were here for millions of years, perhaps they were interested in Earth's unique resources, rare minerals, water, or even genetic material. If this were their primary objective, open contact would be counterproductive, inviting competition or resistance. A more efficient strategy would be covert operation, extracting what they need while remaining unnoticed. This isn't a mainstream historical fact, but it's a common trope in science fiction, and a plausible motivation for hidden activity. You imagine them quietly mining deep under the ocean, or extracting specific atmospheric compounds, their operations unseen by the burgeoning life on the surface. Historians still argue whether significant human cultural shifts were purely endogenous, or if external stimuli played a role. If ancient visitors subtly guided human development, providing knowledge of agriculture, astronomy, or construction, they would have done so without revealing their true nature, maintaining the illusion that humanity's advancements were self-generated. This would align with a long-term, non-interventional agenda, allowing humanity to feel a sense of self-determination while still receiving occasional nudges. It's like a cosmic parent subtly influencing their child's play, letting them believe they discovered everything on their own. A quirky tidbit that often surfaces in discussions of alien agenda is the idea of galactic federations or larger cosmic organizations that govern interactions between species. In this scenario, perhaps Earth is part of a monitored sector, and overt contact is prohibited by a universal code of conduct until a species reaches a certain level of technological or social maturity. Our planet might be undergoing a probation period, being evaluated for membership in a larger galactic community. This provides a structured framework for non-intervention, explaining the silence as part of a larger cosmic policy. You imagine a galactic council reviewing Earth's progress report, deciding if we're ready for the big reveal. Consider the possibility of cultural contamination. If an advanced civilization revealed itself, it could fundamentally alter humanity's trajectory, potentially stifling our independent development or leading to a complete breakdown of our unique cultural identities. Mainstream historical fact shows us that the contact between vastly different human cultures has often led to the dominance of one over the other, with devastating consequences for the less developed. An advanced alien civilization, understanding this, might choose to avoid such a scenario, prioritizing our uninhibited growth over immediate interaction. Then there's the darker thought: what if their presence isn't benign? What if their agenda involves long-term observation for strategic purposes, perhaps related to future colonization or exploitation, and their hidden presence is simply part of a patient, long-game strategy? While this is a more cynical view, it's a possibility that cannot be entirely dismissed when contemplating such a vast timescale. You think of ancient explorers, discovering new lands, observing native populations before revealing themselves, often with less than noble intentions. Mainstream historical fact: human societies have a long history of fear and aggression towards the unknown. A sudden, overt alien presence could trigger widespread panic, xenophobia, and potentially lead to global conflict, even self-destruction. This fear of the unknown, while a natural human response, could be a very practical reason for an alien species to remain hidden. They might be waiting for us to evolve beyond our more primitive, aggressive tendencies. Historians still argue whether the great filters proposed by the Fermi paradox, obstacles that prevent civilizations from reaching interstellar travel, are primarily technological, biological, or sociological. One potential filter is self-destruction. If aliens are observing us, they might be waiting to see if humanity can overcome its own propensity for warfare and environmental destruction before making themselves known. Their hidden presence could be a test, a silent examination of our ability to survive ourselves. A quirky tidbit often brought up is the idea that aliens are already here, but in plain sight, perhaps disguised among us, or operating in secret bases on Earth or in our solar system. This theory suggests that their hidden agenda is so complete that we don't even recognize them as alien. They could be influencing our institutions, our technology, or even our thoughts, without us ever knowing. It's like a cosmic version of hidden camera reality TV, with humanity as the unwitting stars. Finally, consider the sheer indifference. What if their agenda isn't about us at all? What if Earth is just one of countless planets they observe, a brief stop on a long research journey, and their hidden presence is simply a byproduct of their scientific methodology? They might be studying planetary evolution, the emergence of life, or the development of intelligence, and our existence is just data point in a much larger cosmic study. You imagine a cosmic scientist, meticulously collecting data, our entire history just a blip on their extraterrestrial spreadsheet. As you ponder the multifaceted reasons behind the perceived silence of ancient visitors, you realize that the absence of overt contact doesn't necessarily mean an absence of presence. Instead, it could be a deliberate strategic choice, driven by reasons far more complex than we can fully grasp. The alien agenda, whether benign or otherwise, remains shrouded in mystery, a testament to a long-term game that has been playing out on Earth for millions of years, just beneath the surface of our awareness. You move from the speculative motives of hidden visitors to the very real human response to such an extraordinary possibility. The whispers, the rumours, the hushed conversations, and the official denials that form the vast landscape of whisper networks. You're now wading through the dense, often contradictory, information surrounding alleged cover-ups, conspiracies, and classified files related to extraterrestrial contact. The mainstream historical fact is that governments and militaries worldwide have, at various times, investigated unexplained aerial phenomena, often initially dismissing them or offering conventional explanations. But the persistent anecdotal evidence, the shifting official narratives, and the sheer volume of claims lead many to believe there's a concerted effort to conceal a profound truth. Imagine a highly classified vault, deep underground, filled with documents, photographs, and even physical evidence that would unequivocally prove ancient alien visitation. This isn't just a fantasy, it's the core belief of many who follow the whisper networks. You recall the infamous Roswell incident of 1947, a mainstream historical event that sparked decades of intense debate. While the official explanation quickly shifted from a flying disc to a weather balloon, the persistent eyewitness accounts of strange debris and non-human bodies fueled one of the most enduring alien conspiracy theories. It's an open, scholarly debate whether the government genuinely misidentified the object or deliberately engaged in a cover-up. You can almost hear the frantic phone calls, the hurried clean-up crews, trying to sweep an inconvenient truth under the rug. Consider the vast amount of declassified government documents related to UFO sightings, a quirky or fringe tidbit depending on your interpretation. While many of these documents offer prosaic explanations, some remain genuinely unexplained, detailing encounters by highly credible witnesses, including military pilots and radar operators. Project Blue Book, a mainstream historical fact of a US Air Force study of UFOs from 1952 to 1969, concluded that most sightings could be explained, but a small percentage remained unidentified. For believers in cover-ups, these unexplained cases are the smoking gun, proof that not everything is being disclosed. It's like being handed a redacted report and knowing the most important parts are blacked out. Think about the sheer power of mass media and government influence in shaping public perception. If a global revelation of ancient alien visitation were deemed too disruptive, controlling the narrative would be paramount. This isn't a conspiracy theory. It's a mainstream historical fact that governments engage in information management during times of crisis, or to protect national security interests. The question, then, is whether the potential reality of ancient alien contact falls under such a classification, leading to decades of denial and misdirection. You imagine a global committee meeting in secret, weighing the pros and cons of telling humanity the truth, ultimately deciding that ignorance is bliss, or at least safer. The phenomenon of whistleblowers from within government or military agencies claiming knowledge of hidden alien programs or recovered technology is a particularly compelling aspect of whisper networks. While their credibility is often questioned and their stories can be sensationalized, the consistency of some of their testimonies across different individuals and over time can be unnerving. These are often fringe figures, yet their impact on public discourse is undeniable. You listen to a gravelly voice, perhaps a former intelligence officer, recounting tales of reverse-engineered alien craft, and you can almost feel the weight of their purported secret. Mainstream historical fact. Human societies have a long history of suppressing information deemed disruptive to existing power structures, whether religious, political, or scientific. The historical treatment of figures like Galileo, whose heliocentric model challenged the prevailing geocentric view, serves as a stark reminder of humanity's resistance to paradigm-shifting truths. If the truth about ancient alien visitation were to shatter our understanding of religion, history, and science, it's not unimaginable that those in power might seek to control its dissemination. Historians still argue whether the level of public distrust in government institutions is a modern phenomenon or a recurring feature of human societies. The rise of fake news and widespread misinformation today can make it difficult to discern truth from fabrication. This environment of skepticism and conflicting narratives is both a cause and effect of whisper networks, as official explanations are often met with immediate suspicion. It's like trying to find a single, unadulterated signal in a sea of static and competing broadcasts. A quirky tidbit often discussed is the concept of men in black, mysterious, often menacing figures who allegedly visit individuals who have had UFO sightings or strange encounters, warning them to remain silent. While almost certainly a modern urban legend or a psychological phenomenon, the persistence of these stories in the collective consciousness speaks to a deeper fear of powerful, unseen forces attempting to suppress truth. You picture a sleek black car pulling up, two expressionless figures stepping out, their very presence a chilling message to keep quiet. The sheer volume of unexplained aerial phenomena, UAPs, reported by credible military and civilian sources globally, especially in recent years, is a mainstream phenomenon that has led to increased official acknowledgement. The Pentagon's release of declassified videos and reports on UAPs while not confirming alien origin has lent a new level of credibility to what was once a fringe topic. This gradual trickle of official information, after decades of denial, makes you wonder if it's a controlled disclosure, a slow acclimatization of the public to a reality that will eventually be fully revealed. The idea that ancient artifacts hinting at alien visitation have been deliberately suppressed or confiscated is another key element of whisper networks. You hear tales of archaeological finds quickly removed from public view, or dismissed as hoaxes by influential institutions. While such claims are difficult to verify, they fuel the belief that a powerful elite is actively curating our understanding of the past, hiding anything that doesn't fit the established narrative. It's like trying to find a specific book in a library, only to be told it's been mysteriously removed from circulation. Historians still argue about the precise motivations behind historical acts of censorship and propaganda. Was it always about malicious intent, or sometimes about genuine concerns for public order and stability? The answers are complex, but in the context of alien visitation, the idea of a global, ongoing cover-up suggests a level of coordinated effort that is truly staggering. A quirky fringe tidbit that highlights the reach of these whisper networks is the concept of psychic disclosure, where individuals claim to receive telepathic messages from aliens, often detailing secret histories or impending revelations. While dismissed by science, the consistency of some of these channeled messages, often echoing themes found in ancient astronaut theories, serves to reinforce the belief among adherents that truth is being communicated through unconventional means, circumventing official channels. You imagine a quiet voice in your head, whispering secrets that defy logical explanation, yet resonate with a profound sense of truth. Ultimately, the whisper networks about ancient alien cover-ups thrive on the absence of definitive answers and the presence of tantalizing inconsistencies. They represent humanity's collective anxiety about unknown forces at play, both from beyond our world and within our own governing structures. Whether these whispers are based on fragments of truth, or are merely expressions of our deep-seated need for grand narratives, they paint a picture of a world where the most profound secrets are guarded by a select few, operating in the shadows, carefully orchestrating our journey towards a future that may or may not include a full accounting of our ancient alien past. You wonder how much of what you've learned tonight has been carefully managed information, and how much has slipped through the cracks. You've explored the subtle clues of ancient visits and the dense web of modern secrecy. Now you're turning your gaze forward, to the exhilarating, perhaps terrifying prospect of future shock, the monumental impact that a grand revelation of ancient alien visitation would have on humanity. Imagine a day, perhaps soon, when the whispers become undeniable shouts, when the classified files are fully opened, and the evidence of our cosmic heritage is laid bare for all to see. The mainstream historical fact is that humanity has always adapted to new discoveries, from the Copernican revolution to Darwinian evolution, but each has come with profound societal shifts, and often initial resistance. How would we cope with the knowledge that our history, our very origins, were intertwined with beings from another star system millions of years ago? You envision a global press conference, not about political turmoil or economic shifts, but about irrefutable evidence, recovered artifacts, clear historical records, perhaps even the verifiable existence of ancient long-dormant alien structures on Earth or the Moon. The initial reaction, you surmise, would be a mix of awe, disbelief, and profound existential questioning. It's an open scholarly debate whether such a revelation would unite humanity against a common other, or fragment us further, sparking new conflicts over conflicting interpretations and claims of lineage. You can almost hear the simultaneous gasp and cheer from billions of people, followed by a confused silence as the implications truly sink in. Consider the immediate impact on religion. Mainstream historical fact shows that religious beliefs are deeply ingrained in human culture, providing frameworks for morality, meaning, and our place in the universe. If gods were revealed to be ancient astronauts, benevolent or otherwise, how would faith systems adapt? Would they collapse, or would they reinterpret their scriptures to encompass a cosmic narrative? A quirky or fringe tidbit is the idea of astrotheology, a new theological framework that attempts to reconcile religious belief with the existence of extraterrestrial intelligence. You imagine ancient prophecies being reread, not as divine edicts from a supernatural deity, but as fragmented accounts of advanced beings, their miracles explained as technology, their heavens as distant star systems. Think about the profound implications for science and history. Mainstream historical fact dictates that human civilization is a self-contained product of terrestrial evolution. The revelation of ancient alien influence would necessitate a complete rewriting of our textbooks, a re-evaluation of every archaeological site, every ancient text, every evolutionary theory. Paleontology, anthropology, and archaeology would be forced to incorporate an entirely new dimension. It's like discovering that a seemingly simple equation actually has dozens of hidden variables. Every calculation suddenly changes. A quirky tidbit that touches on future shock is the post-disclosure trauma theory. Some researchers speculate that humanity, upon full disclosure, might experience a collective psychological shock akin to a species-wide identity crisis. This could manifest as widespread anxiety, depression, or even a breakdown of social norms as people struggle to reconcile their prior understanding of reality with the new cosmic truth. You imagine a therapist's waiting room, filled with people grappling with the sudden realization that everything they thought they knew was incomplete, or worse, a deliberate deception. The impact on geopolitics would also be immense. Mainstream historical fact shows that nations compete for resources, power, and ideological dominance. If ancient alien technology were recovered, or if specific nations were revealed to have had long-standing secret contact, it could ignite a new space race, a scramble for advanced knowledge, or even conflict over who owns the alien legacy. Would humanity unite in its newfound cosmic identity, or would old rivalries intensify, amplified by the promise of extraterrestrial power? You envision global leaders, once focused on terrestrial squabbles, suddenly forced to confront a reality that dwarfs their petty disagreements. Historians still argue whether technological leaps in human history were purely linear, or if certain periods saw accelerated progress due to unknown catalysts. The revelation of ancient alien technology would unequivocally answer this, proving that our technological development has not been entirely self-generated. This would fundamentally alter our perception of human ingenuity, perhaps diminishing it in some eyes, or conversely, empowering us with the knowledge that such advanced states are attainable. Consider the economic implications. New industries would emerge overnight focusing on space exploration, alien artifact analysis, and interstellar communication. Existing industries might be disrupted as new energy sources or material sciences derived from recovered alien technology revolutionize our lives. It's a mainstream economic principle that new technologies create new markets, but this would be a leap of unprecedented scale, potentially leading to widespread automation and a redefinition of work itself. You picture a stock market crash, then a boom as the world reorients its financial compass towards the stars. A quirky fringe tidbit that often arises is the concept of terraforming, or planetary engineering being an ancient alien activity. If it's revealed that Earth was subtly modified or cultivated by ancient visitors, it would alter our relationship with our own planet. We would no longer see ourselves as the sole stewards, but as inheritors of a cosmic garden. This could inspire a new sense of environmental responsibility, or perhaps a nihilistic indifference, depending on the interpretation of their intentions. You imagine looking at a mountain range and wondering if its contours were deliberately shaped by beings from another world. The very concept of human identity would undergo a profound transformation. Mainstream philosophical thought largely frames humanity as a unique terrestrial species, the pinnacle, or at least a unique branch, of Earth's evolution. The knowledge of ancient alien visitation would force us to confront our place in a larger cosmic tapestry. Are we unique? Are we hybrids? Are we a cosmic experiment? These questions would resonate through every aspect of human self-perception, potentially leading to a new sense of cosmic humility or a grand awakening of purpose. Historians still argue about the concept of human exceptionalism and its role in shaping our worldview. The idea that humanity is unique and special is deeply ingrained. A future shock disclosure would challenge this deeply held belief, forcing us to re-evaluate our position in the universe. It's like a child suddenly discovering they were adopted, and their true parents are from a faraway, extraordinary land. Finally, think about the future of space exploration. If we knew for certain that aliens had visited and perhaps left technology or knowledge, the urgency and direction of our space programs would change dramatically. The search for life would transform into a search for our ancestors, for our cosmic kin. Every celestial body, every distant signal would be examined with renewed intensity, driven by the profound knowledge that we are not, and perhaps never have been, alone. This would be a mainstream scientific shift of monumental proportions. As you contemplate this future shock, you feel the tremors of a potential paradigm shift that would shake the foundations of every human institution and belief. The revelation of ancient alien visitation is not just a scientific discovery, it is a global awakening, a moment when humanity would be forced to confront a truth far grander and perhaps far stranger than anything we have ever dared to imagine. The question is not if it will happen, but when, and whether we are truly ready to face the consequences of our cosmic heritage. You've imagined the seismic impact of disclosure. Now, let's pivot from the past and future revelations to the present, to the ongoing, quiet quest for silent signals, the dedicated, often frustrating search for current extraterrestrial communication or evidence of continued presence. You are now inside a giant radio observatory, its massive dishes tilted towards the heavens, listening for the faintest whisper from beyond the stars. The mainstream historical fact is that humanity has been actively listening for radio signals from space since the 1960s, with programs like SETI, Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, driven by the assumption that advanced civilizations would use electromagnetic radiation for communication. But what if the signals are not what we expect, or are so subtle, so ancient, that we're simply not equipped to detect them? Imagine the sheer vastness of space, the millions of light years that separate potential communicators. Even if a signal were sent, it would take millennia to reach us, and another millennia for our reply to be received. You ponder the WOW signal, a mainstream astronomical curiosity detected in 1977 by the Big Ear Radio Telescope, an unusually strong narrowband signal that lasted for 72 seconds and has never been detected again. While likely a terrestrial interference or a rare astronomical phenomenon, its characteristics were precisely what astronomers had hypothesized an interstellar signal might look like. It's an open scholarly debate whether it was a genuine extraterrestrial transmission or a fleeting anomaly. You can almost feel the collective excitement and subsequent disappointment of the scientists who found it, a tantalizing whisper from the void that quickly faded. Consider the possibility that advanced civilizations wouldn't communicate via radio waves, a relatively primitive and easily attenuated form of transmission. A quirky or fringe tidbit suggests they might use neutrinos, gravitational waves, or even quantum entanglement, forms of communication that we are only just beginning to understand or detect. If their signals are being broadcast on frequencies or through mediums we haven't yet conceived of, our vast radio telescopes would be akin to trying to catch fish with a sieve. You imagine a cosmic conversation happening all around us, invisible and inaudible to our current technology, like trying to pick up a Wi-Fi signal with a vintage rotary phone. Think about the sheer amount of cosmic noise we have to filter through. Mainstream scientific fact dictates that the universe is a cacophony of natural radio emissions from stars, galaxies, quasars, and cosmic background radiation. Distinguishing a deliberate, intelligent signal from this immense background static is like trying to hear a single whisper in the middle of a roaring stadium. Our algorithms and processing power are constantly improving, but the task remains monumental. You're listening to a vast ocean of white noise, hoping to catch a single meaningful word. The great silence of the Fermi paradox, which we discussed earlier, extends to this lack of current signals. If the universe is teeming with life, why aren't our dishes constantly bombarded with alien broadcasts? This mainstream scientific puzzle remains a core challenge to the idea of widespread intelligent life. It forces us to consider that perhaps intelligent life is rare, or perhaps more chillingly, that advanced civilizations simply don't wish to communicate, or communicate in ways we haven't anticipated. Historians still argue whether humanity's relentless technological progress will inevitably lead to interstellar communication or self-destruction. The silent signals could be a consequence of the Great Filter. Civilizations might not last long enough to become interstellar communicators, or they might reach a point where they transcend physical communication altogether, existing in a purely digital or energetic form. This provides a sobering perspective on our own future. A quirky tidbit related to silent signals is the concept of interstellar probes, or von Neumann probes. self-replicating machines that could traverse the galaxy, gathering information and perhaps even seeding life. If ancient visitors deployed such probes millions of years ago, some might still be active, silently observing Earth or other planets, without ever sending a direct signal. Their presence would be incredibly subtle, detected only by accidental encounters or highly sophisticated future technology. You imagine a tiny, autonomous drone, no bigger than a dust mote's, meticulously recording every detail of Earth's history, completely unseen. Consider the possibility of cryptic messages embedded in astronomical phenomena. Mainstream astronomical research focuses on natural processes, but some fringe theories suggest that certain unusual star behaviours, like the inexplicable dimming of Tabby's star, KIC 8462282, could be evidence of Dyson spheres or other megastructures built by advanced civilizations to harness stellar energy. If such structures exist, their very presence, their manipulation of cosmic resources, would be a silent, undeniable signal of intelligence, far grander than any radio wave. You look at a distant star, wondering if its fluctuating light is not natural, but the blinking eye of an alien architect. The ongoing search for biosignatures in exoplanetary atmospheres, a mainstream scientific endeavour, is a form of searching for silent signals. Detecting oxygen, methane, or other gases indicative of life on distant planets would not be a direct communication, but an undeniable sign of biological activity. This approach is more patient, more passive, acknowledging that most life might not be intelligent or might not be inclined to communicate actively. It's like finding traces of pollen in an ancient bog. It tells you life was there, even if you can't hear it speak. Historians still argue whether the current pace of technological innovation will continue indefinitely or eventually plateau. Our current methods of searching for extraterrestrial intelligence are based on our own technological capabilities. If alien technology operates on principles we haven't even discovered, our current search methods might be inherently limited. It's like trying to find a cell phone signal with a crystal radio. A quirky fringe tidbit is the idea of galactic internet, or a universal communication network that advanced civilizations might be using. Instead of individual signals, they might be contributing to a vast interconnected web of information that we simply haven't learned to access or decode yet. Perhaps we're looking for a specific email when the entire library of the universe is flowing past us, encrypted and incomprehensible. You imagine millions of alien minds constantly exchanging thoughts and data, forming a vast, unseen consciousness across the galaxy. The increasing precision of our telescopes, like the James Webb Space Telescope, allows us to study exoplanet atmospheres with unprecedented detail, potentially detecting the chemical fingerprints of life. This mainstream scientific progress brings us closer to finding those silent signals of life, even if not intelligent life. The sheer power of these instruments extends our senses across unimaginable distances, straining to hear the quiet hum of existence on other worlds. As you conclude your mental tour of the observatory, the hum of the instruments fills the silence. The search for silent signals is a testament to humanity's enduring hope and relentless curiosity, a recognition that the universe is vast and full of possibilities. Whether it's a faint radio whisper from millions of years ago, a deliberate cosmic beacon, or simply the undeniable chemical signature of distant biology, the search continues, reminding us that the answer to "Are we alone?" might be found not in a booming declaration, but in the most subtle, most ancient, and most patiently awaited of signals. You've listened for silent signals, pondered hidden agendas, and considered the physical traces of ancient visits. Now let's imagine the monumental shift, the upheaval that would cascade through every facet of human existence if the truth of ancient alien visitation were undeniably revealed. You're now stepping into a world experiencing a paradigm shift, where the very foundations of our understanding of ourselves and our place in the universe are violently, yet perhaps exhilaratingly shaken. The mainstream historical fact is that humanity has experienced profound paradigm shifts before. The Copernican revolution moved Earth from the centre of the universe. Darwinian evolution showed our biological connection to all life, and quantum physics shattered our classical understanding of reality. Each caused immense intellectual and societal turmoil, but none would compare to the realization that we are not, and perhaps never have been, alone in shaping our destiny. Imagine the day it happens. Not a whisper, but a verified, unequivocal announcement. Ancient alien contact is a fact. The first tremor would be felt in our identity. For millennia, humanity has viewed itself as the unique, dominant intelligence on Earth, perhaps even in the universe. The discovery that we were visited, influenced, or even genetically engineered by an external species millions of years ago would force a radical re-evaluation of who we are. Are we purely human, or are we hybrids? Are we masters of our own destiny, or part of a grand cosmic experiment? This is an open scholarly debate that would explode into public consciousness. You can almost feel the collective vertigo as billions of people simultaneously grapple with a completely new definition of human. It's like discovering you were adopted, but your birth parents are from a faraway galaxy, and they left you a cryptic treasure map. Consider the profound impact on religion, which we touched on previously. Mainstream historical fact shows that religious narratives often provide comfort and meaning, offering explanations for creation and human purpose. If our gods were revealed to be advanced beings from other worlds, it would challenge the literal interpretation of sacred texts for many. Would faith crumble, or would it adapt, embracing a wider cosmic theology? A quirky or fringe tidbit is the concept of exotheology, the study of religious questions in the context of extraterrestrial life. You imagine religious leaders worldwide issuing new interpretations, perhaps with a touch of discomfort, attempting to reconcile millennia of dogma with the undeniable presence of non-human creators or guides. The entire field of history and archaeology would undergo a massive overhaul. Mainstream historical fact relies on documented evidence and conventional archaeological interpretations. With a confirmed ancient alien presence, every unexplained artifact, every ancient myth, every megalithic structure would be re-examined through a new lens. The out-of-place artifacts would suddenly find their place, proving that our textbooks were incomplete. The narrative of human progress would no longer be a purely linear terrestrial journey, but a complex, perhaps guided evolution. It's like finding a missing chapter in a foundational historical text, a chapter that redefines everything that came before. Think about the scientific advancements that might be unlocked. If alien technology or knowledge were recovered from ancient sites, even if partially preserved, it could lead to revolutionary breakthroughs in energy, propulsion, material science, and medicine. Mainstream scientific progress is incremental, but this would be a leap of unprecedented magnitude. New fields of study would emerge, dedicated to xenolinguistics, exobiology, and ancient alien engineering. You imagine scientists once bound by terrestrial limitations suddenly having access to concepts that could cure diseases, solve energy crises, or enable interstellar travel within decades. A quirky tidbit that becomes relevant in this paradigm shift is the concept of consciousness expansion. If ancient aliens influenced human cognition, as we explored with Brain Buzz, then perhaps their revelation would trigger a further shift in human consciousness, allowing us to perceive new realities or even communicate telepathically. This highly speculative idea suggests that the paradigm shift isn't just intellectual but experiential, potentially unlocking latent human potentials. You imagine a sudden, collective awakening, a new way of thinking and feeling, where humanity evolves not just technologically but spiritually. The impact on social structures and geopolitics would be immense. Mainstream historical fact tells us that human societies are organized into nations, with borders, distinct cultures, and often competing interests. A shared alien heritage, or the presence of advanced alien technology, could either unite humanity under a common cosmic identity or exacerbate existing divisions, leading to new forms of conflict over who controls the narrative or the technology. Would we become Earthlings first, or would old tribal loyalties intensify? You envision a global summit, not of presidents, but of every single human being, trying to come to terms with this shared, overwhelming truth. Historians still argue about the true catalysts for major societal transformations. Was it always internal innovation, or did external pressures play a larger role? The revelation of ancient alien influence would definitively answer this for some periods of human history, potentially leading to a re-evaluation of all major historical turning points. The very definition of progress would be re-examined. Consider the environmental implications. If ancient aliens viewed Earth as a resource or a research subject, understanding their long-term intentions, if any, could profoundly impact our own environmental policies. Would we feel a greater responsibility as stewards of a cosmic garden, or would a sense of nihilism set in, seeing ourselves as mere pawns in a larger game? Mainstream environmentalism, driven by human responsibility, would confront a new, possibly overwhelming context. You look at the natural world, wondering which parts were pristine and which were gently, or even dramatically, shaped by non-human hands over millennia. A quirky fringe tidbit that might gain traction is the idea of galactic citizenship. If we are indeed part of a larger cosmic community, perhaps even with an ancient lineage, the concept of being a citizen of Earth would expand to include a broader universal identity. This could lead to calls for a unified global government, or at least a powerful international body, to represent humanity on the cosmic stage. You imagine a new type of passport, not just for countries, but for planetary systems. The revelation of ancient alien visitation would also force a profound philosophical reckoning. Questions about free will, destiny, the purpose of suffering, and the nature of intelligence would take on new dimensions. If our intelligence was boosted, our civilization guided, how much of our achievements are truly ours? This is a mainstream philosophical inquiry that would be thrown into sharp relief. Historians still argue about the role of serendipity versus deliberate planning in human achievement. The alien paradigm shift would challenge the notion of accidental genius, suggesting that some breakthroughs might have been carefully orchestrated or inspired from afar. Finally, the emotional impact would be unparalleled. A sense of wonder, fear, betrayal, excitement, and a profound expansion of possibility would wash over humanity. The sheer scope of the universe would shrink and expand simultaneously. We are no longer alone, but our place in the cosmos might be far more complex than we ever dared to dream. You think about how you'd personally react, the awe and perhaps a touch of terror as the cosmic curtain is finally pulled back. As you contemplate this paradigm shift, you realize it's not just a change in knowledge, but a fundamental alteration of consciousness itself. The revelation of ancient alien visitation would be the ultimate future shock, an event that redefines our past, reshapes our present, and irrevocably alters the trajectory of our future, reminding us that the story of humanity is far grander and far more entangled than we ever imagined. You've navigated the tectonic plates of historical paradigm shifts, and now, as the final chapter of our bedtime story unfolds, you're left with the profound, lingering question that underpins our entire journey tonight. What if, in the grand cosmic narrative, we've always been connected? This final reflection brings us to the open question of whether ancient alien visitation isn't just a historical event, a series of episodic visits millions of years ago, but rather a continuous, pervasive, and perhaps even intrinsic aspect of our existence, woven into the very fabric of our reality from the beginning. Imagine humanity as a single, collective consciousness, slowly awakening to a truth that has always been present, merely veiled by our own limitations and interpretations. The mainstream historical fact is that our understanding of the universe has expanded dramatically, from an Earth-centric view to a vast multi-galactic cosmos, and our scientific instruments grow more sophisticated by the day. But what if the ultimate connection isn't something we find out there, but something we recognize within ourselves, a dormant memory of an ancient bond? You recall the collective unconscious from Section 12, the shared reservoir of archetypes and experiences. If ancient alien interactions were so pervasive, so fundamental, that they imprinted themselves on our nascent species, then perhaps that collective unconscious isn't just human, but cosmic. This is an open, scholarly debate that pushes the boundaries of psychology and philosophy. What if our deepest dreams, our recurring myths, our inexplicable intuitions, are not just internal constructs, but echoes of a shared history with beings from beyond our star system? You can almost hear a faint ancient hum in the deepest recesses of your mind, a frequency that resonates with something timeless and vast. Consider the notion of consciousness as fundamental to the universe, a quirky or fringe tidbit in the realm of theoretical physics and philosophy. Instead of consciousness being a mere byproduct of complex brains, what if it's an intrinsic property of the cosmos itself? If so, then an advanced alien species, millions of years ahead of us, might not communicate with radio waves, but through shared consciousness, a direct mental connection that transcends physical distance. This would mean that our brain buzz isn't a signal from them, but a part of their extended consciousness subtly intermingled with our own, always present. You imagine tapping into a cosmic network of thoughts, not unlike the internet, but entirely telepathic, flowing through the very fabric of space-time. Think about the sheer impossibility of perfect concealment over millions of years if their presence was purely physical and external. Mainstream historical fact shows that even the most well-guarded secrets eventually leak. If ancient aliens were merely visitors dropping in and out, their long-term presence would be almost impossible to hide entirely from geological record or accidental discovery. This leads some to conclude that their connection isn't just about fleeting visits, but a more integrated, continuous relationship, perhaps even a symbiotic one. The idea that we are, in some fundamental way, star stuff is a mainstream scientific fact. The atoms that make up our bodies were forged in the hearts of distant stars. We are literally made of the cosmos. But what if this connection goes deeper than mere elemental composition? What if our very biological and cognitive architecture bears the imprint of advanced cosmic engineers, making the connection an active, ongoing biological inheritance, rather than just a historical event? Historians still argue whether significant evolutionary leaps were entirely driven by terrestrial factors, or whether external influences such as meteor impacts or cosmic radiation played a larger role. In the context of ancient alien genetic jumbling, this argument takes on a new dimension. What if those external influences were not random cosmic events, but deliberate guided interventions that continue to shape us? A quirky tidbit that explores this deeper connection is the concept of cosmic memory, or Akashic records, a metaphysical idea that all knowledge and experience past, present and future is imprinted on a non-physical plane of existence, accessible to those who can tune into it. If this were true, then the ancient alien narrative isn't just about historical events, but about accessing a universal library that contains memories of our cosmic origins and ongoing connections. You imagine closing your eyes and suddenly perceiving not just your own memories, but echoes of distant star systems, alien encounters, and cosmic histories, all stored in an unseen archive. Consider the pervasive human sense of longing for the stars, a mainstream psychological phenomenon. Why do we feel such an inexplicable pull towards the cosmos, such an innate desire to explore and connect with what lies beyond Earth? Is it merely curiosity, or is it a deep-seated ancestral memory, a biological urge implanted within us by those who came from the stars, a yearning for our original home or for the beings who guided our development? You gaze up at the night sky, feeling a familiar ache, a desire to return to a place you've never consciously known. The philosophical implications of an always connected reality are immense. If our consciousness is subtly linked to a broader cosmic network, or if we are a long-term project of an extraterrestrial intelligence, it fundamentally alters our understanding of free will and determinism. Are we truly independent agents, or are we, in some subtle way, being guided, cultivated, or even observed as part of a grand, ongoing cosmic experiment that has been playing out for millions of years? This is a profound philosophical question that would challenge every human institution. Historians still argue whether human destiny is solely in our own hands or subject to larger, uncontrollable forces. The idea of an always connected ancient alien presence would suggest that our path has always been influenced, subtly or overtly, by something beyond our immediate control, creating a sense of both profound connection and perhaps a loss of ultimate autonomy. A quirky fringe tidbit that often arises here is the idea of walk-ins or starseeds being physical manifestations of an ongoing alien connection, souls or consciousness from other star systems taking human form to guide humanity or experience terrestrial life. While highly speculative, it speaks to the persistent human intuition that the connection to the cosmos is not just historical, but deeply personal and continuous. You might meet someone with an unusual wisdom, a strange sense of knowing, and wonder if their soul carries echoes of a journey far beyond Earth. The very concept of time would shift. If advanced civilizations operate on timescales of millions of years, then our entire recorded history is but a blink of an eye to them. Their visits might not be discrete events, but continuous observations, their interventions slow, deliberate processes that unfold over geological epochs. This would change our perception of causality, of progress, and of our place in the cosmic flow. As you allow the full weight of this open question to settle, you realize that the answer to "have aliens been visiting Earth for millions of years?" might not be a simple yes or no. It might be a much more profound, more beautiful, and more unsettling truth that they have never truly left. That the connection, whether biological, cognitive, or purely energetic, has always been there, a silent hum beneath the surface of our awareness, guiding our evolution, influencing our myths, and continually reminding us subtly that we are part of a much larger, much older, and eternally interconnected cosmic family. The faint glow of your bedside lamp casts long shadows across the room. The world outside is quiet, but in your mind the universe hums with ancient possibilities. You close your eyes, the profound questions echoing, not as a source of anxiety, but as a gentle lullaby, an invitation to a dream world where the veil between past and present, Earth and cosmos, is thin and permeable.